Good morning, everyone. Is everybody here for fees and fines? Okay.
If you just want to give me one, that's fine. Oh, Mr. Ray,
Huh?
I think you might want to have it.
Well, they're going to go through it. I mean, Excuse me again. We're here for fines. Okay, I see. So we're looking at transportation, planning and zoning, and you're together, okay. All right. So it looks like that's what we'll start with then. Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Okay. It looks like we're going to begin today with our fines. So we have Mr. Gordon, Director of Transportation, to share with us changes to the fine schedule.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rick Gordon, Department of Transportation. I have with me Kevin Lawrence from SP Plus Corporation. Kevin works with us on a daily basis to address enforcement fines and fees within the city, and as part of our work group, we work with them to develop the fines as shown in the list. The majority of these changes are a result of us seeking compliance from the parkers within the city. In many cases, the current fines as listed are not quite the deterrent that they need to be to get the compliance that we want, and it's primarily for that reason that you see these increases within this list.
I'm not seeing where these changes occur in the document that we have. Do you have?
Is this what you just handed out?
Okay. I thought these were the fines.
These are fines.
Okay. I'm confused then. What's your code number for your items?
For the first page, 1220-010B.
Okay, so that's, okay, we do have it then.
Okay.
Okay, so can you walk us through what these changes are?
Yes, in most cases, it's, if you look at the sheet you have,
Yes.
the new rate is listed, the old rate is stricken, beginning with obstructing driveways. The change would be from 100 to 200. Parking adjacent to a red line curb, the change would be from 100 to 300. Blocking a crosswalk from 100 to 300. Parking adjacent to a yellow line curb, instead of the fine being equal to the daily maximum garage fee, we're recommending that it be changed to $50. Next page, starting with 1220-040B. Parking with left side to curb. Once again, we want to change it from tying it to the garage fee to a rate of $50. Backing the vehicle to the curb, again, $50. Angle parking, $50. Parking more than 12 inches from the curb, $50. Blocking a driveway entrance to a fire station from $250 to $500. Leaving a motor vehicle unattended, $50. Parking reserved for persons with disabilities, ADA violations from $100 to $500. Next page, starting with 1220, 180. 8-hour parking on King George, again, changing the rate from, I'm sorry.
You
Oh,
you
the one-
skipped over
yep.
2, sorry.
Oh, you're right, there are a couple above that. Parking in motorhomes from 50 to 100. Posted no parking from 50 to 100. 8-hour parking on King George, $50. 9-hour parking on St. John's, $50. 2-hour parking on State Circle, $50. Removal of vehicle parked for longer than 48 hours, $150. Parking in a metered space for more than 2 hours, $50. Parking at expired meters, $50. 1232, 190 violation penalty. It was tied to the garage.
Then they'll take works towards the objective. Have you looked at that as far as long-term financial impact or revenue stream?
We have looked at it, not so much long-term, but the immediate change. Let's see if I have the right sheet.
So we need to see whether it really changes behavior or not.
Yeah.
But for next year, we're thinking it's not going to change behavior that quickly.
Yeah,
So that's the additional revenue we've included in the in the parking fund for next year as a result of these fines.
right. We'll have to address this comprehensively as far as, training people to go to garages, and that's...
And again, that's
we'll
the
continue to
whole
do
idea
so.
is the
Yeah.
compliance. We
Right.
have a parking, everybody acknowledges we have a parking problem, and we think this will help to fix it, minimize the
Yeah.
problem.
I know my constituents will be very happy about the ADA violation. I don't know if that happens in your ward.
Well, that's a federal issue, isn't it, or a state issue, ADA?
State,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well below the threshold.
I have a couple of questions. The 9-hour parking on St. John's, does this mean they're allowed to park 8 hours on St. John's
Yes.
Street?
Yes.
Okay. Is there signage, and how will you advertise the new rates on all of these?
The current signs are there. We would work with Public Works probably to change the signs and also do some sort of public notice to make all city residents aware of the changes.
Ms. Sutherland, will we publish all of the fees and fine changes, other than in, how will we publish them, I guess, is the question? Especially those that deal with parking.
I haven't given thought to that, because
Okay.
last year, the fees and fines, I don't think there were any fine changes, and the fee changes were very minor, and we do have some extensive fee changes this year as well. So we do need to figure out
Okay.
how we're going to publicize it. I mean, we can certainly blast it on the front page of the first page of the website. We can, do a press release of some kind. These guys will advertise parking changes through through SP Plus.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for, on these fines? And these are the only changes to fines. Is that correct, Ms.
That's
Sutherland?
correct. And so what you have, so should you do a motion to approve these, this is not the complete schedule. This is only the part of the schedule that has changes. So,
Right.
I will have a cleaned-up, complete schedule, but this was so you could see the red lines. And so what we'll end up doing is, if you say we make a motion to approve the fine schedule with the changes to the parking fines presented to the Finance Committee, the amendment to the resolution will be pull this exhibit and put this one in.
Right, okay. I was trying to, we're talking to Ms. Dickerson, figure out where this fit into what's in Granicus, and I think I found where it fit, so
It'll
we're
be
good.
resolution,
But it was in R-1719, but where in this 10-page document? But we cleared that up, but
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
okay.
So Alderwoman, are you prepared to make a motion to support these
Madam Chair,
fine changes? Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman?
just have a quick question of the city manager. So this sheet that was given out, so there were no other changes to the fines in terms of, because I only see certain sections of code going up to chapter 14, so there's nothing else in 17 or,
There's no other
Line there.
changes other than those that have the red line to Title 12 that are in the handout that you received.
okay.
Was that your question?
Yep.
And-
Following.
Alderwoman Tierney, the last page of that handout has the Excel schedule that Mr. Gordon was referring to.
Oh,
It has an estimate of $487,190, but we conservatively just included 475.
based on what you're anticipated.
Because it's just,
Yeah, it's,
you know,
yeah, no,
it's based on the number,
Right.
on the count in calendar year 2018, but that could change.
right.
And if the revenue goes down, projected revenue goes down, that means people learn quickly.
And we'll, yeah,
Okay.
And so can I just,
Which
so,
we kind of hope they do.
so planning and
behavioral.
zoning and public works looked at their fine?
They did not
schedule?
propose any increases to the fines.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
May
Alderman?
I just want to echo my colleagues' request that we do an outreach. I know SP Plus has their own PR, and that's very important, bilingual, et cetera, whatever it takes. And I applaud you for doing this, and people have to realize that the streets are a public entity and should not be used freely. So thank you so much for doing this. I'll make a motion to approve the fine,
To give a favorable
a
recommendation.
favorable, I'm jumping ahead, favorable recommendation for the fine schedule as amended for Title 12. How's that?
It's not just Title 12, though. It's 11 through 14, I think.
Yeah, so as amended.
Yeah. And I'll second that. Further discussion?
No.
Hearing
Madam
none,
Chair.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, gentlemen.
Do I have my printouts yet?
Now, can we call,
Let me get the handouts and then I'll call wherever you want next, I'll get the handouts.
Miss Harbor Master Mont?
Going off of what I sent you last. No, I'm reading the handouts, don't read my handouts. I can't really begin without the
Okay, then, Alderman, or not Alderman, geez, Mr. Trader, Director Trader, did you have something other than the information that Ms. Dickerson was providing for your department?
Yes, we have some aquatic pool price changes,
Somewhat, I'm sorry.
pool changes, pool aquatics.
Do you want to come up very quickly and provide those? And then we're going to go on to the fees.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Are you talking about fees also, changes? Or, okay, then we're not ready for your fees yet, because we're just getting the document. I'm sorry, I thought you were providing some other numbers from your presentation yesterday.
Good morning, Ms. Ellis, Member Master. So the changes that I'll be proposing this morning have to do with Title 15.
So I'll give you the page number so you can get to it quickly.
Page 12.
Beth's quicker. Thank you.
Page 17. So we're looking at pages. Oh, sorry. Looking at pages 12 through 17, Title 15. And so what you will see with the changes, there aren't any increases or decreases to any of the fees. It's just a cleanup of language. If Alderman Finlayson remembers, this was done prior in 2017, and it needed more work, and it will probably need more work in the future. But mostly all we've done is clean up language and adjust a little bit of policy.
My page 12 begins with 14.20.010.
Correct.
Is that-
And all the way at
okay.
the bottom there, you will see the first piece of Title 15. It doesn't appear there's any change to that section. And then moving on to page 13, at the top there, we've changed our minimum hourly docking to 4 hours from 3 hours. And if you come after 6 p.m., you'll need to pay the daily fee. The reason for that change is folks were coming at 6 p.m. and staying overnight and not paying, and we were losing money. So we're just trying to create a fee structure and a policy that makes sense and is fair. People are paying for what they're getting. So that's really all of the changes that you're looking at on page 13, have to do with what I just described. And then moving on, there's nothing on page 14. And then if you'll see on page 15, we've changed our winter storage fee to monthly instead of weekly, which is what it always should have been. When folks bring their boats, the fee is actually not changed because it was $2 a week and now it's $8 a month, so it's essentially the same amount of money. And then moving on to page 16, I talked with our legal team, and I always had the feeling that this doubled fees for vessels found in violation was sort of a gray, not a great idea, because it doesn't allow a person to have due process. So we shouldn't really be doubling fees. If someone breaks a rule, we should be giving them a ticket and allowing them to have due process, where they could either pay the ticket or they could ask for a hearing in a court of law. And so that was removed, and I think it's a good thing that that's removed. And then the
Ms. Mock,
explanation.
could you hold one moment? Alderwoman has a question.
Okay.
Beth, will there be, or is there a need for a respective code change on this?
Yes.
The double fee thing?
I have felt for some time, and Mr. Elson and I have worked on some changes for Title 15, and Ms. Sutherland is in strong agreement that Title 15 needs some work, and that's on the top of my priorities for 2020.
Okay, and it has to be, if these pass, then the code should align with them.
Correct.
Well, from what I'm reading, 15 was repealed, so you're rewriting 15,
Not all of Title 15.
not all Title 15.
If you're looking on page 17,
Yes.
there is a piece of Title 15 that was repealed, and so Ms. Sutherland could speak to this better than I could, because I think she did this research. That means that the corresponding section of the fee schedule does not make sense. It needs to be removed.
So each department was tasked with reviewing the fee schedule, making sure the code reference was right, and reviewing the fee amount to determine whether the fees were adequate to cover their costs, or in some cases, what would be supported by the market. So for example, how much we charge for a gym membership is not going to cover the cost. But we, have a policy, we're looking at market rates, and we're also just looking at the taxpayers paid to build the Pitt Moyer Rec Center. They shouldn't pay what you would pay to go to Annapolis Athletic Center or something like that. So each department was tasked with doing that. We found several fees that aren't in the code at all, that are on the fee schedule. We found numerous bad code references. We found things that were obsolete. We found things that were outdated. So where that's happened, I've removed them from the fee schedule. So for example, 15-16-050, which is on page 17, it was repealed in 2004, put in the fee schedule for 15 years. So it's cleaned up.
So we don't need, and Ms. Mock mentioned that she's working with the law department to redo the language in the code?
So she wants to redo other parts of the language in the code, and
Okay.
I'm going to go back to page 16, in the middle there, where it says doubled fees for vessels found in violation.
Yeah.
That's a fine. That's not a fee.
Okay.
Right? And so that should be, it should be in the fine schedule, and we need to look at the appropriate legislation to do it. For those fees that we identified, there was no code authority. For example, filing an appeal with the Board of Appeals, it's $250. It's nowhere in the code. So we've already, those we've identified, we've asked the acting city attorney to draw up legislation for us.
Okay, and that's what we're asking about with
So
these
what we'll do
items.
is, that's not going to be resolved today
Yeah.
or this week, right, or even next week. So we'll draw up legislation. When we bring that legislation to you, if we're proposing a fee, we will say this establishes a $250 fee to file with the Board of, the code will say, if you file an appeal with the Board of Appeals, you shall pay the fee adopted by resolution of the City Council. In that ordinance, we'll add, and we hereby amend the fee resolution to put $250 in, or we'll have companion legislation, however it works.
Okay.
So we'll pull it together so code matches resolution, and
Okay.
everything's clean.
All right. Ms. Muck, is that all of yours?
That is. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for her before she has to leave?
Mooring fees are the same, just obviously they are, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Not that I can see, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Bellis, thank you.
Thank you.
And take your time, you'll get there.
Thank you.
Who's next? Do you have an order now?
Pardon me?
Do you have an order now? Because if you don't, I can suggest one.
What do you mean, for taking up
The remainder of the fee schedule by department?
No, do you have an order?
Well, yeah, because some of them are going to be pretty extensive. Planning, zoning, and public works are pretty expensive. Fire is going to go quickly. So I would suggest you do fire department next.
Okay. What part of the code is fire?
So you're going to go to page, and David, I can give you this to look at too. 17. 20. Not page 17.
No,
Code section
17. Point.
It's page 29. And I also have even a change as we speak to.
Chief, before we get on to that, though, I'd like to, I don't know whether you have a copy of this. Ms. Dickerson provided us with a breakdown of the increases. What page was? I don't know, I have mine labeled by department. I'm not sure this is the... Jody, what page? That doesn't match with that.
Okay, so if you're going to the fire department budget on page 81,
Uh-huh.
all right, so if you look at that FY19 adjusted budget column, does it match by 400,000? Because of the fund transfer that we've added to this budget. I've updated my electronic copy, but I don't think I've distributed the fire table with the new adjusted budget numbers. But if you just add 400,000 to the salaries and benefits amount of, that you see there, 16,174,000.
What page are you on?
81. You see what I'm talking about? The adjusted budget number, 16,174,569.
No,
Yeah,
You add 400,000 to that.
well, and that will bring us to,
That will bring you to the top number in my presentation. Yeah, so look at the total salary and benefits column on my presentation at the top.
uh-huh,
That is the adjusted number with the 400,000 added to it.
For 2019.
Yes, that's where you start. in
Okay,
19 That's the adjusted 19 budget.
I'm still not seeing this. So what should the total be?
Okay. This number should be increased by 400,000.
Oh, this number should be increased, okay.
Yes, so which is this number right here?
Okay, so not this number, I'm on the wrong sheet, okay.
The starting point for fiscal year 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the 400,000 for? Just to adjust it for the fund?
So in the 19 budget, we had a pool of raise money that we initially put in finance non-allocated. It was in excess of $900,000, and we had $275,000 set aside for Viva Chop in the budget, but both of those were in a central location. And so we brought to council a fund transfer that moved that money out of finance non-allocated into various departments who needed extra salary money. So that 400,000 even went to fire.
Right. You show that on another spreadsheet, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Chief, did you see the breakdown of the numbers? So any questions? I mean,
I have no questions.
because we had questions about the 400,000, but also about the SAFER grant and the 6 months, so we're good on it, I think. You're clear on?
No, we just need an explanation of the adjusted budget for fiscal year 2019 to the proposed. There's a $2.2 million add, and we just simply asked for the justification of that. So could you walk us through it?
I can walk you through this since I prepared it. So this schedule that we're referring to starts with the adjusted 19 budget, and what I've done is gone down the left side and listed the things that impacted the budget going into 20 to outline what caused the increase. We had, in 19, we had some of the pension budget for fire in finance non-allocated. And that money, that $264,600, will be moved to the fire budget for next year. We calculated the approximate amount, 6 months for the SAFER grant, which we talked about yesterday, that we're going to have to pick up fully in FY20 in the general fund. My total for that was about $398,000. The fire department, those on the F scale will get a 2.5% COLA on July 1, and any of those employees that are on the civil service scale will get a 2% COLA. So I've factored that into that COLA line there for the salary increase and the related FICA and pension increase. $345,000 approximately. The next line shows you the approximate amount related to step increases, $215,000 total. The budget also going into 20, we have to increase our pension contribution as a % of payroll. That 104,549 is that approximate number. And we did not, last year, in 19, we had put turnover. We budgeted some turnover into the fire budget of $150,000. And this year, we don't have any turnover in the budget. So I've added that back in the salary line. The next item is our decrease overall in overtime. The overtime amount that you see at the top of that column reflects the fund transfer. Some of the fund transfer went to that line. And for FY20, we're only budgeting $600,000 total. So that 177 reduction shows the difference there. Then we have a small amount for one of their enhancements for annual physicals, $31,900. Those are the last of the items that impact the salary and benefit budget. So this schedule brings you down to the FY20 mayor's proposed budget for fire. Now, the other two columns that are on the right, you asked for contractual services and the capital outlay items to be shown. What is causing the changes? The major item in contractual services is, as we talked about yesterday, the vehicle maintenance transfer that's going over to the fleet maintenance fund of $380,000. We have some extra money in there this year for radio maintenance, $10,670. And then there's a small number at the bottom that's just the total of all the other increases and decreases of the other line items.
Why didn't we proportionally do the same with police as far as the safer, or I'm just
The
confused
SAFER grant only
because-
affects fire department.
Okay, and the pension?
The pension, the increases to the pension have been factored into the police budget, but they don't get a COLA this year. So you won't see those significant increases in their budget.
And then the justification for the transfer, well, I guess let me ask it this way. What is the fleet maintenance fund allocation going to be used for? Is that just,
It's going to be transferred over to the fleet maintenance fund, and Mr. Horwath will use that to buy fuel and fix the fire vehicles. That's his approximation of what it's going to cost for him to take care of the fire vehicles next year.
Jody, is that fleet operating or fleet maintenance? What are we calling that? Because I think,
Fleet op.
what's the name of the
Fleet
fund?
op.
Because I don't want Ellie to think there's a third fund.
Fleet maintenance fund.
Okay, so the text message exchange that we had, Ellie, where we were talking about fleet operating, it's the same thing.
okay.
Bad terminology on my part.
Okay. Thank you. It just wasn't explained. This is a big jump, and it wasn't explained in the enhancement, so I suspect my colleagues and the public will question it, so I just wanted to get it clarified up front.
The reason it's not in the enhancements, our enhancements are new things. This really isn't anything new. This is the cost of doing existing business.
Madam Chair?
Alderman?
Thank you. So for the fleet maintenance fund, is that something that each department has? Like, does the police department, Public Works have a fleet maintenance fund?
Yes. This year in the general fund, all of the departments that have vehicles will be moving some money over to the fleet maintenance fund.
And where's that listed in their budgets?
In most cases, it's going to be in your contractual services line, but it's only a piece of it. So you won't see it broken out in the budget book.
So what about, okay, is this typical? I mean, I kind of like to see what the other departments are transferring. To the
I can provide you with the schedule that Mr. Horwath gave me that breaks out the cost for each department by vehicle.
Okay. Yeah, just for comparison, because it does, like my colleague said, it looks like a huge jump for fire, and, you know.
Well,
also
what
trying to-
happened last year,
I mean,
what's going on? Okay.
Just compared to, for example, like police, where, you know, that's actually, their salaries and benefits go down, although their contractual services do jump up
And part of the increase in their contractual services line would be that vehicle fleet and maintenance contribution to the other fund. In FY19, that whole amount was in the finance non-allocated section, so we've moved that into the departments.
Okay.
So, and the other thing that, so in 19, it was an Office of Finance non-allocated. It's now in the department's budget to reflect the true cost of running the fire department or the police department or whatever it might be. And then also in 19, you'll remember, you just approved $200,000 transfer out of the contingency account to the fleet maintenance fund because the prior administration had not budgeted those costs and was paying for them out of an unbudgeted revolving fund. So you just increased the budget in 19 by $200,000 because we didn't know those costs were being paid out of a revolving fund.
And now all of the vehicles are coming through fleet maintenance?
Yes.
Which has not been the case in the past?
So fleet maintenance will maintain fuel, repair, everything, all of the vehicles. Each of the departments pays into fleet maintenance from the general fund or the utilities fund or whatever fund has a vehicle into the fleet maintenance fund based on the type of vehicle they have. So Mr. Horwath looked at a little white car costs this much to maintain, and an SUV costs this much to maintain, and a police SUV costs this much to maintain, and fire trucks and ambulances cost a whole lot to maintain. So it puts the costs in the departments so that you can see what the cost of fire operations are and police operations are. Comes out of there, goes to the fleet maintenance fund, so it's an expense in the general fund or the utility fund to go over to the maintenance fund. It's a revenue in the maintenance fund, right? Then you appropriate it and you spend it out of the maintenance fund.
Question?
So
Alderman?
to your credit, you even have a projected fund balance. Do you study if this money would be spent and where, or am I giving you too much credit? When I look
Of course not.
When I look at your fund balance summary, you're actually estimating, I mean, how much is going to be, you have a fund balance remaining. Or maybe I should ask, how is that
Can you give me the
calculated?
page number so I make sure I'm looking at the same page you are?
Are
Or
you referring to the
replace
fleet
page?
maintenance fund?
Oh, am I in the
or
wrong-
the-
oh,
or
no,
the
they're
general
both here. No, no, I'm on internal services, so it's fleet operations. So, yeah, so where is fleet maintenance fund?
Okay,
I was
it's
looking
called
at page
fleet
21.
operating.
I know you have it.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah.
The other page where they have the individual tables, it's called fleet maintenance. So
Okay.
it's
We will
got it under
fix
two
that
different
in the
names.
final book. It will be called one thing, but if it says
Thank you.
operating or maintenance, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Okay, that would be
As
helpful. Yeah.
distinguished from replacement,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
So if I go to the,
So, because you have to hold a fund balance, and so I guess I'm just curious on how that's calculated, but it's,
so on the fund balance page that we handed out, we are anticipating to have $122,000 of fund balance at the end of FY '20.
yeah,
And, you know, you don't want that fund to,
no.
it needs to be able to cover emergency repairs, and emergency repair on a big piece of fire apparatus
Yeah.
can be very expensive.
Okay. Yeah, so it's accounted for and studied, and that's...
Yes.
That's all good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing?
Future questions or further questions?
No, so
Okay,
we can...
Then we're going on to fires.
Actually, we could go back and approve the fire department, because that's what was holding it up.
I think we approved it yesterday.
Contingent on anything? Okay.
Did we approve the,
What you said yesterday, you did, pending a breakdown. It was stated that you were recommending favorably pending a breakdown of the,
and that's what we just received. So,
Salary and
okay, if you want to,
so,
we want to make another motion to approve the amended fire department budget. It's not really amended, but with the breakdown of
I'll try.
expenses.
Okay, I'll try this. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we recommend the fire department budget, as we did receive a breakdown of the increase today.
I'll second. Hearing further discussion, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Moving on now to fines or fees. Fees. Chief, page 21, I think.
So if you look at our fee schedule, it's a very long and convoluted schedule, a bunch of individual occupancies listed. So we went back and tried to figure out where that came about, how it came about, and we talked to some retired fire marshals in the department, and that was established many, many, many years ago. And to be honest, it is kind of a convoluted process. So what we're trying to do is shorten the fee schedule, make it more easy to use.
We're on page 29.
So we basically did a cost per hour for an inspector to do an inspection. And that cost per hour is based on the hourly wage of the inspector. So
Chief, I'm having trouble hearing you. Is your
I'm
mic
sorry.
on? Okay.
So the fee schedule is based upon the cost per hour of an inspection using the hourly wage of a fire inspector. And it takes out all those other individual occupancies to make it clearer, easier. It talks about like an elementary school inspection for $100, or how big is a school? Is it a small school, big school, little school? Who knows? So it makes it easier for us to just do it by hour.
And so, when you look at page 29, you'll see the 6th and 7th line down. If it's a fire inspector, it's going to be $50 an hour. If it's a fire inspector, it's going to be $50 an hour. If we have to hire an outside fire protection engineer, which is more costly for us, it's going to be $125 an hour. Those rates will apply to all of those inspections that follow on page 30 and 31.
So we're talking 17.20.100.
Yep, everything that falls
Okay.
under 1720-100. And on the second line under that, where it says plan review fees, I need to delete that line as well, because it's plan review and fire inspection. It should just be an hourly thing. So it's just a cleanup on my part.
Okay. So the fees will be the same no matter what type of entity? Okay. Is that all of fire? 17.22 goes to
Page
Public
31.
Works? So,
Yep.
okay. Questions for the chief?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It makes absolute sense to me. I cannot believe we had such a list. I don't even know if we have all those categories in the city, but thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you, chief. Next.
The next one, which is, I'm going to go over, I'm just going to start on page 1, and we can, I'm going
I
to skip
prefer
around some,
that,
but the
so-
ones that there isn't a department person here to address, I'm going to address.
Okay.
So the first one is at the very top, 248-100, which is an appeal to the Board of Appeals. There is no authority in the code, and the acting city attorney is drafting legislation for us to correct that. Go down the page to 604-210. Again, there's no authority in the code. This code section has nothing to do with these kinds of fees. So the city attorney is drafting legislation for us for bounce checks and credit collection pass-through, which is when we have to hire a collection company to collect on bad debts. The second one, non-covered emergency medical services, we don't even know what that is. Nobody in finance knows what it is. Nobody in the fire department knows what it is. We don't provide emergency medical. It's either your insurance is going to pay it, or there's no such thing as a non-covered emergency medical service. So that will be deleted altogether. And the merchant service charge, this is something I've tasked Jody with looking at more closely. This is when people pay by credit card primarily, and it's a lot. And we pay a lot in fees to allow people the convenience of paying by way of credit card, whether that's in the Office of Finance paying a utility bill, or it's Rex and Parks paying your membership fees. So we need to look at that a little more comprehensively. We're not charging it now, even though it's in the code, and we're not sure 2% is the right amount. So that is on the finance director's to-do list. I'm going to go to page 2 now. So pages 2 through 7, top of page 7, are all the alcoholic beverage license fees, and it just is very difficult to read and follow in this format. So we are striking it from here, and we just have a table all by itself, the last 3 or 4 pages of this, starting on page 59, has the same exact information. It's just much easier to read. And the only new proposed fee for alcoholic beverage licenses is a $50 application fee for consumption on city property. So if you rented out the Stanton Center and you had a 1-day license.
Where is that item?
It's the very last page of the schedule. Page 63. So all of the stuff that's on pages 2 through 7 are moved to pages 59 through 63. And the only actual change in any fee is a new fee for $50, the very last one listed, for consumption on city property.
Okay, and I do have a question about that. I've heard from a lot of residents who have gotten a 1-day liquor license from the city, and our fee is $75. I'm looking at page 63. I assume that's
Yes,
it.
that's correct.
I'd like a breakdown because the county's fee is $10. So what makes our liquor license so much more expensive than Anne Arundel County's?
Okay.
I mean, I know we're very special and all that stuff, but that's a big leap.
Well, we'll get you that. I can tell you
Okay.
$10 obviously isn't going to cover our costs,
Okay,
right?
well,
It's not going to
70
cover the paperwork and the, expense of Cindy Gaines processing the application form and whatever, but I'll get you an answer.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the county does that they can do it for $10 and we have to do it for $75. I'm just,
They're not doing it for $10 either. I mean, they might
Okay.
charge you $10,
okay.
but I guarantee you it costs them more than $10 to process
Okay.
it.
Well, let's find out what that real cost is.
Okay, will do.
All right. Question, Alderman?
Yeah, what,
Alderman.
thank you. The $5 annual, that's correct? It says per day and then $5 annual.
To theaters.
To theaters.
That's what's in there right now. And I asked Regina to look at all the fees and propose any changes, and the only change that she proposed was that very last one. So,
So we didn't change that. It exists as $5, an annual fee for $5.
yeah,
It just
let me
said-
look into that.
Yeah, let's look into that one.
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense that that one would be $5 and the other one's $75. Seems to me you got the same amount of effort involved.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not clear on that because it says per day, beer, wine, and liquor per day, and then $5 annual. So is it annual or is it per day?
It's an annual maximum. So it's $5 a day, total of $100 for a year. So if you
Okay.
came in,
So if the theater has shows every weekend, it's 150 days a
Right.
year, $5
right,
a day.
but a maximum of 100 for the
At
year.
a maximum of
Yeah.
100, that's what that means.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Questions?
No, thank you for
Okay.
this. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Let's see who's going to be
Public
easiest.
Works.
I'm tackling the easy ones first. We talked about
Could we,
Harlem.
I prefer, and I hate to keep people
prefer to
here,
go
but I prefer we
down the
just
line?
go in order, because
Okay.
then we don't miss anything.
Okay, well then we got Public Works next.
Director Gerald, Deputy Patrick.
Good morning, David Gerald, Director of Public Works, Marcia Patrick, Assistant Director. She dealt with the fees more than I did, so she'll address any questions you may have.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's cold in here, Mr. Gerald. Just an opportunist. I
Maybe
am
that was sitting
sometimes.
behind me said it was hot, so you just can't win.
Before you start, Jody just pulled up Anne Arundel County. It's $50 for a one-day.
I don't know what that says, but having purchased them myself,
Oh, that's interesting. Because that's clearly what their form says.
yes. So
Mike's
anyway,
off.
we can talk about that, but yes, maybe they just changed it. But it was $10. It has been $10 for, okay, moving on. Thank you.
The first fee that we are proposing to raise is the annual fee for trash collection from dwelling units within the city.
9.
That's
Page 9.
page 9.
Always tell them.
Okay. Our existing 7-year contract with the current trash collection contractor has ended, and we are starting a new contract, which is much more expensive. So the rate is being proposed to increase from $205 annually to $261 annually. We are also increasing other fees for private trash collector permit, and that's generally for the contractors that service businesses in town or other private entities. And those are all slight increases just to account for increased costs of staff time. Commercial recycling is going up a bit, and again, that is based on how much time is actually spent to process those permits, and also to pay our contractor to collect them.
Okay, so now we're on page 11.
Before you move on to page 11, Alderwoman, you have a question? Page 10, 9?
Yeah, on page 9, one would say, or one could ask, why are the residents being charged more than the businesses, if I understand that correctly? The 261 is the annual fee for dwelling units, and the 210 would be, I guess, the fee for a business to have its refuse hauled away.
That is not what that fee is for. That is for the actual,
It's a
the
permit?
collection companies, and that's what, we inspect each vehicle
Okay.
that is allowed into the city to make sure they don't, drip trash juice, which,
So it's not a fee paid by the business.
It's not the
It's a
businesses.
fee paid by the hauler to get a permit
right.
to pick up from businesses.
So what does the business pay?
The
They pay the
businesses, the businesses hire their own hauler, so that's a
Okay, so they
private
pay the
contract
hauler
between
and
the
you-
two that we're not involved with.
Right.
Okay,
This is
got it.
haulers only, and this is their vehicle inspection fees.
Understood.
All right, so are you ready to move to page 11? Because the next part is Mr. Gordon.
Oh, that was
Do
it?
we come back to Public Works?
You will come back to Public Works, but if you want to...
Well, why don't we just keep everybody
Well,
there?
that's what I said,
instead?
and you said you wanted them in the order of the schedule. How do you want them? Just tell me.
No. I want them all at the table, so you're not bouncing back and forth. And when it's their turn, they present. So we are going through it in order.
Okay, so
But they
right-
don't need to move their seats every time they have. Yeah, just add more
Okay.
chairs and,
Okay, I'm sorry. So you
Yeah.
do want to start now on page 11, the second?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
that's going to be Mr. Gordon.
I just don't want us to miss any. So if we go through them
I
systematically, then that
misunderstood,
will.
I'm sorry.
That's different.
This is what you have.
Okay.
So we're on page 11, and the section is 1232-140A and B, and then 1232-145. These are three of the parking permit lines.
And essentially, the change is to strike the multi-day, single day, and just label it as a temporary residential permit. Cost has not changed. The next one, 1232.
Mr. Gordon, this question, Alderman.
Sorry.
Yes, one would ask, why, thank you, why are we charging $3.50 a day to park within close range to City Dock on a public street versus $20 a day for Hillman Garage or $10 a day for Knighton? I mean, is this a reasonable charge, $3.50 a day for our parking on our public streets?
Yes.
Compared to garage, if we want
This is
to...
temporary permits for property owners who are residents and have a residential parking permit. This is
Correct.
pursuant to Bill 04.
All right, so our ordinance then has to be implemented, so this is not an option for a visitor. I'm saying if a visitor is choosing between $3.50 a day...
No.
Okay, so this is just all...
This is a temporary parking permit that falls
For
under the
residents.
residential parking permit provisions.
Okay, so it's for the use of the resident. Okay,
Yes.
you understand my question? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And they're allocated 10 permits.
Yes,
Are they able to,
That's
I'm
correct.
sorry, are they able to get one at a time
yes, they are,
But a maximum of
at
10.
the maximum of 10.
and not transferable month to month, so they don't
Non-transferable.
stockpile?
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Next one is 12.32, 145. It's non-residential parking permit, $3.50 per day.
Maybe that's the one I want.
That's the new category that you created in
Okay, yeah.
04-18
That's
or
correct.
04-19,
Yeah.
whatever the bill number is.
Right.
I think it's 419. And
It's a
that's, so
snowbird.
those are also for property owners.
Correct.
But they are property owners that this is not their primary residence.
Correct, yeah.
So they
it's-
come back from wherever they are, they can buy a permit for each day that they can show they are here and occupying their
Okay,
residence.
so
Yep.
this is, yeah.
And
as
now
long
we're
as they-
back to planning and zoning,
Okay.
or public works. 14084040.
Is that Public Works? Driveway construction?
Don't use whatever you have unless it came from us this morning. Don't use it. Don't use it. I need one more copy.
I'm addressing 14.08.040, fee for a permit for each driveway to be constructed or for each lowering or raising a curb. That has increased significantly. It was, we were undercharging, and that is completely based on staff time for processing the permit and doing the inspections.
Okay. Next item, tree removal. Page 11,
Tree
bottom.
removal.
So this is one that is a plan, it's charged by planning and zoning, and it was a $50 application fee and a $100 permit fee, but in practice, the $50 application fee was applied to the $100 permit fee. So if you applied and you got your permit, you paid $100. So this is saying a permit for tree removal is $100. So it's just clarifying it and simplifying it.
Question, do they have to also, if they're in the historic district, do they have to pay a fee to HPC
They have to pay a fee for their COA.
for the tree removal? Okay.
Questions? Madam Chair?
Going over to page 12.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Sorry,
about that.
Alderman.
Thank you. So regarding the tree removal, 1412, who administers that currently? Is that Planning and Zoning or Public Works?
Planning and zoning.
Okay. And so and maybe this is a question for the city manager, but the philosophy for the fees is that they help to cover the cost of running that program, right? Okay.
Correct?
Okay. Well, is planning and zoning administering that section of the code, or is that the Office of Environmental Policy?
It's the Office of Environmental Policy, although we coordinate with them for things like if it's in the historic district.
But the actual permit is issued by planning and zoning. The Office of Environmental Policy right now has no regulatory authority.
issue all permits.
So their permit, so it's planning and zoning who issues the permit and collects the fee.
So which costs are sought to be offset by the fee? Is it the costs in administering it in planning and zoning, or is it the cost of the review in Office of Environmental Policy?
It should all be accounted for. And the fee goes to the general fund, not to our department.
Right, and Ms. Guile did review this fee as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. So we're going on to page 12, non-refundable permit fee. That's under 14.20.010.
This is back to Public Works. These fees have increased. I will address 14.20.010, which are obstruction permits for roads or or sidewalks, and also 14.20.030, which is the fee to dig up, it says relay, it's probably delay or obstruct street. Those again have been raised to adequately reflect the processing time and the inspections. They were too low, so they have been raised to account for staff time.
Okay. The same thing applicable to 030? Is that what you're...
Correct. Every one of these fees, we have done a spreadsheet to account for staff time.
Okay. Question?
So we've covered, so that's the end of that part. We've covered
we're on
13.
page 13, 15.
13, 15, we covered with, when Ms. Bellis was here. And so we are now on page 17. And this is going to be planning and zoning.
You were at the bottom of page 17?
We're in the middle, so you got, at the top, you have 1516.040, Port Warden's hearing application fee. Then the next section is deleted because it's obsolete and was repealed. So we're now on 1520.070, 1521.10, 1521.30, and 1521.80. These fees are all listed in the schedule later under section 1712.
Okay, so simply move to 17.
Yeah, already in there. So right now it'll say, see section 17 something. It just shouldn't be in the schedule at all. And then we are on permit inspection fee for tapping existing mains, which is going to be Public Works.
Now, what page are you on?
17. Bottom of the page.
And the code reference is 16.04.010. Permit for inspection fee for tapping existing mains. Again, these fees were being very much undercharged, and we have accounted for all staff time for, it's basically the inspection time is significant for our utilities crew to make sure everything is installed correctly.
Then we get to the last line of page 17 through, just the last line of page 17 where it says conditional upon adoption of 01413. That's just obsolete language.
Okay.
Just removing.
Delete completely.
Section 16.04.060. These are the fees for the continued inspection for a larger project. We raised the minimum fee, and we have left the 4.5% of estimated construction cost for the larger jobs is remaining, but we have raised the minimum fee for that, again, to account for staff time. 16.04.070, this is for a chlorine testing charge or a bacteria testing charge, which are actually charged separately, and so if they're doing both, they're charged for each one. The next section is 16.16.160, and that is the pretreatment program. We have raised a few of those fees to account for staff time. I think we're going to take a really good look and do an overhaul next year for these, but this is just slight increases to account for staff time. The categories have changed in the last several years, and we're going to revise those a bit.
The sanitary sewer fee has considerably changed. Not that it probably didn't need it.
And that is the pretreatment fee also.
Okay.
There are a variety of fees. There are many categories. It is a federal regulation for the wastewater pretreatment program to protect our system, our collection system, and the treatment plant. It hasn't been raised in many years, and that is an adequate reflection of the actual cost. So there are several pages of these. And then we have moved on to page 22.
Alderwoman?
Yeah, thank you. Do you have a respective fine schedule for these items? Are there respective fines?
Yes.
And you didn't change those?
No.
Okay. Any
We will be
reason-
looking at all those
Did you look
very closely for next year.
Are you okay with that, Alderman Savage? Yeah, just this is pretty. This is connecting into our city sewer. This is, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, going on, we're over on page 22, I think.
You're on 22, which the description of it starts on page 21, non-refundable application fee for a grading permit. So this is going to be planning and zoning.
Madam Chair?
Can she present first? Or you have a question about something else?
No, about that section. Go ahead, though.
She's getting ready to.
So the first two for, 0 up to 2,000, we're just setting a minimum of 265.
So we're eliminating the first two categories. Okay.
And the same thing on grading permit.
Okay. Alderman?
Thank you. So for the grading, so nothing else is being increased here. So what programs are covered with this fee? I mean,
I'm sorry,
what costs are this fee seeking to cover?
The staff review time.
So for the grading permit, which staff would that include?
Well, it includes anyone who reviews a grading permit in planning and zoning or public works.
Okay, so it includes so you looked at the cost for the stormwater management program too, in terms of the review for the grading permits?
Stormwater.
Does that include the
That is part of the grading permit review,
That
yes.
includes the sediment control, the stormwater,
That's right,
and so that would include the stormwater engineer
yes.
costs?
Mhm.
All right. Well, so how much, I kind of like to know how much you raised on these fees or projected to, and how much of those position program costs it'd be projected to cover, because I know we also have the stormwater management position currently being funded through the Watershed Restoration Fund. So if it's being funded through these fees, it seems like there's a duplication of funding. To get my question.
Right, well, if we had to pay for all of Matt's time, we would definitely need to raise the fees, but no. This is also, remember, covers administration and everyone who touches that permit. So it's, it's not just paying for Matt. I get what you're saying about his costs, but there's other people who review these permits and touch the permit.
Right, yeah, I understand, but I mean, if the point is to try to cover some of our stormwater costs, we may want to look at increasing that. instead of pulling so much from the watershed fund. I mean, I've spoken with the county administrator for the watershed program, and I know our language code may not be written this way, but what they try to do is they say, well, if a position would exist regardless of whether or not we had a watershed restoration program, then those positions should be funded out of the general fund, I guess you would call it, right? Instead of being funded. So essentially, you reserve the watershed restoration fund to pay for new positions you would have that are associated with the restoration management program. And again, I know that's probably not how the way it's written for us, but that's kind of the direction I'd like to go, is to have that pay for new positions instead of positions we would have anyway as a part of the development review process. I mean, we've had a grading permit reviewer, stormwater management engineer longer than we have the stormwater utility. So, and that's the one thing I'm concerned about is, again, that duplication. So I'd almost rather see this increase to help pay for more, and maybe we can offload at least one of the stormwater engineers from having been paid out of the watershed restoration fund.
Yeah, I guess just a couple of thoughts. One is that we have a spreadsheet that shows the amount of hours that go into that. So it's possible that we could take the stormwater engineer out of that and attribute part of that fee to the stormwater fund. Instead of all of it going to the general fund, some of it could possibly go into the stormwater fund. So that's one option. I had another thought, but it escaped me just now. So if I think of it, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd still like to see the position funded through. So what I'm saying is, I guess the percentage of funding that comes for the stormwater management engineer out of the watershed restoration fund perhaps be reduced by the amount that's being funded through the fee itself. If not,
We'll provide you an analysis
Yeah.
of the costs related to these grading permits as it pertains to stormwater engineers, and we'll provide you an analysis of the costs that are charged to the watershed restoration fund as it pertains to the stormwater engineers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it'd be good to know which positions we would have, regardless of whether or not we had a restoration fund or a restoration program. And I'm guessing that'd be the stormwater engineer, the sediment control inspector, the maybe one street sweeper or so. So we can work towards taking those costs out of the restoration fund and into the fee structure.
Yeah, I know at least, and that was my other thought, so it came back to me. At least for the last 8 years that I've been here, it's always been that way, where those costs that are associated with stormwater are paid for from the stormwater fund. I know that there's a lot of talk I've heard that when this fee was originally established, it was going to be just for water quality projects. But that's not really how an enterprise fund works. An enterprise fund says you got this area, stormwater in this case, and all of the costs are going to be covered for that area. So, same with water and sewer, same with refuse. All of those costs that are associated with that program are paid with the fee. So that would be a big change, at least for the last probably 10
It would
years.
be, and it's something for us to explore, and something I have on my list as some of the policy that, in fact, I want researched thoroughly. So the county is not, our watershed fund is a utility fund.
Before we move on.
Which means there are expenses incurred by the city that are paid by the users. The users are, in this case, we determine the fee per user for it's a stormwater management system. These are the costs of our stormwater management system, which is our utility. And the users pay a fee based on impervious surface, which we'll revisit whether that's an equitable allocation, how we do that, but that's how we do it right now. In the county, it is not a utility fund. It is not a fee, it is an excise tax. And when you collect an excise tax, you have much broader purposes that you can use it for. So right now, we can't, people say, why aren't we doing stream restoration? Because that is not a purpose in our watershed restoration fund. Stream restoration is not a purpose. In the county's watershed protection and restoration fund that's funded with an excise tax, it very clearly is a purpose. In Howard counties, it's a purpose. So that's, again, some of the research I want done. I think we can get way better use of our watershed. I think it should be protection and restoration fund. I think it's grossly misnamed right now because not a penny of it can be used for restoration, and yet we call it the Watershed Restoration Fund. So these are the types of policy analysis and research that I want done so that we can make greater use of our money, better use of our money. Should we be collecting the fee and issuing bonds like the county does? And because it is a tax, it can be used to repay those bonds, and then we can leverage that money instead of saying, I got $1 million of revenue, I can do $1 million of projects. I could do, I don't know, I'm making this up, $15 million of projects by having $1 million to pay for the debt service on them. So there's a lot of leveraging that can be done, and the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be restructured and revisited, which we would want to do once we had determined, once Greenvest had completed its work and Stan Tech had looked at the rate structure that we want to have.
And you did send us an article, or at least one article, comparing the excise tax and what other jurisdictions, how other jurisdictions handle that. So
when you
that's
tax when it's a tax and not a fee,
right,
you got a whole lot more you can do with it.
So that's on our to-do list.
Yes. It's on my immediate to-do list.
Yes. Okay. Alderwoman has a question.
I do. Maybe it's just the way it's worded, but I'm a little confused. I can't believe I am, because, but you say non-refundable application fee for grading permit based on estimated cost, da-da-da-da-da, and then you say 3% of estimated costs. You do per estimated cost, and then you do 3% of estimated cost of site work plus. I'm confused between those two categories.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I had this conversation last week. So that type of language will be cleaned up.
Thank you. Okay. Just call me a dumb general contractor.
So what we're doing is I've taken the existing fee schedule, which is very messy.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show you the changes in the fees themselves and get your concurrence if you concur with those changes. And then just like with the fine schedule, it'll say the amendment will be pull the fine schedule attached, or pull the fee schedule attached and use this one instead. That one will have the fees that you guys, that are being presented to you today, but it's going to be way cleaned up. There's stuff in here. There's some things that say fee, no charge. If there's no charge, why is it in here? It's a schedule of fees, right?
Yeah.
There are things that, some places it'll say in the category X per hour. In other places, you know, the hour, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm cleaning all that up. What we're looking at now is just pointing out where the changes are to you.
Yeah.
To see if we have your concurrence on what we're going there. We'll clean up the language to make sure it's consistent.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Going on to 17.10.180.
Yeah, so that's the watershed restoration. That's a 2% increase as recommended by the rate study that David Hyder performed. But keep in mind that he also recommended that we restructure, not along the lines that Teresa was talking about, but along the lines of how the large impervious area owners are charged. So we've started that process to work through that, and those will be ready for next fiscal year. So this is just the first 2% to get us through this coming fiscal year. We have a relatively good cash balance, so that's going to use some of that cash balance over the next year before we restructure it next year.
Okay.
Those rate studies for refuse, for water and sewer, and for watershed restoration are all on the Finance Department's website, and we'll also send copies of those to you all.
So when we receive concerns about the fees, we can direct them to the rate studies. Mm-hmm. Okay. Next two items are looks like changes to the numbers simply of the section of the code.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
over on page...
The next substantive change...
24?
Yep. No, 18. Oh, wait a minute.
Page 18.
Sorry, I'm backwards. I'm flipping them the wrong way here.
I have page 24 as the next item, which is 17.1.0.056.
going to be planning and zoning.
Yeah,
It's
building permit
fees. So the first one is a clarification, because if you look above it, 50 to 75,000 is $200. And it did say 75,000 and over is 25% of the cost. Well, that would be less than the 200 on the line above it if it was at 75. So we really meant 200 plus 25.25% of the excess. that's
So
over
it doesn't, shouldn't be more than 200?
It's, so if you look at that language, and again, this will be much clearer in the final version. So it's 75,000 and over. The fee is going to be 20.25% of the cost in excess of 75,000 plus 200. And this is exactly where I'm talking about. I'm going to clean it up.
Okay.
Okay. And then the same thing a few lines down for the permit fees. And then we are down to the reinspection fee, about 2/3 of the way down. So in this case, throughout the fee schedule, we have several places where the reinspection fee will be a range. So my first question was, a range based on what? How are we going to decide what that range is? And it's based on the time that it takes, but I felt like that was too discretionary to just have a range, either have an hourly rate or have a fee. And so in talking to planning and zoning, they thought it was appropriate that a residential reinspection would be 100 and commercial would be 150. And so you'll see that change in several places as we go through. The next line is, there is no code section 1712-130 that does a fee for 250, and that's one of the ones that the city attorney's looking at.
Okay, going over to page 27, inspection fee, reinspection fee.
So this
Bottom
is
of
the same
page.
thing on pages 27 and 28, where we're eliminating the range, the discretionary range, and making the reinspection fees 100 and 150 for residential and commercial. And then we are down to the bottom of page 28, section 1720-070. Fee for a permit to install or erect an item. That's you guys. Okay, that's the fire marshal. I'm sorry. We should have had that while Chief Stokes was here. Those were the fees that they proposed based on their time. So they had looked at that again. And then we're down to page 29, and which we've already recovered with Chief Stokes. And then that gets us to page 31. And I'll let planning and zoning walk you through those.
Okay, so 1724-070, that's the fees for gas fitter and plumber licenses that are fees that they pay for the city license that they must carry. And they're just reflecting the 2-year license rather than annual license. So it's a slight increase, but you're seeing a larger jump, but it's, instead of being charged $75 annually, it's $200 biannually.
Mr. Manassa, do they usually need a 2-year license? Or is this, I mean, they just get their license renewed? I mean, I don't...
Well, previously we were, the city code referenced an annual fee for their license. And in practice, it's more practical to do them biannually.
Okay.
And it reduces the difficulty of trying to get those renewed every year.
Okay.
They're good for 2 years at this point, and that will smooth out the process of trying to keep up with all the different licenses.
Okay.
Is that spelled wrong?
No.
Biennially?
You can thank Jody for that one.
Bien.
So,
It's French.
biannually is twice a year. Biannually is every 2 years.
That's why I had to ask. Oh, my
That's why
gosh.
Jody makes the big bucks.
Wow.
All right. And the next item is redundant, so it's deleted completely.
Correct.
Okay, so that takes us over to 32, page 32.
Again, this is the plumber license for the master plumber and journeyman plumber. Again, we're going to a biannual license that's good for 2 years at this point.
And then we're down to Public Works.
Okay, this is referencing section 17.28.090. These are charges for issuance of plumbing permits that are the sum of the connection charge, capital facility charge, and a capital facility assessment charge, and an installation charge. So this fee is collected when permits are issued by planning and zoning, but they reflect the public works costs for, we install a 4-inch public sewer connection or a 1-inch public water connection. These fees have increased significantly, and it is completely based on our costs. You may see an increase next year because we're actually trying to phase them in. It's a significant increase. We've been undercharging these for a long time.
Alderwoman?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Would this be what could be misconstrued as the tap fee? When,
Yes.
do you understand my question?
Yes.
This is the city, so for like the fire sprinkler work, they would still have to pay this to tap into the extensions? Or, I mean, is this...
No, ma'am. This is strictly for 1-inch domestic water meters for the water charge.
Okay.
And the 4-inch sewer line is typically a domestic
Okay.
sewer connection fee. So those are the two installations that the city will give the option of the city doing that installation. So for larger taps,
Yeah.
such as a sprinkler main or a commercial building,
Yeah.
the city does not do those installations, so these fees do not apply.
Okay, you answered my question. Okay, so this is just for domestic water and sewer, and, okay, thank you.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Going over to page 34. Reinspection fees again.
Yes, correct.
Same
These are
thing.
just eliminating the range and making them a standard
And
amount.
Okay, and then we're on page 35, starting 1744010, short-term rental license. So I'll let John.
Okay, the short-term rental license is a $200 fee. We're cleaning up the language in the fee schedule where it was a $100 fee plus the regular rental fee, which was a confusing method of wording it. It should be just a straight $200 fee. So that cleans up in the short-term rental license.
So it's 200 now, and we're just calling it 200.
200, yeah, we're just changing the wording. For the 1744060, that is the large multifamily complexes where they employ staff. Again, this was confusing wording prior. We are billing them $100 per year, so there's an annual fee of $100, but they're issuing a license that's effectively good for 2 years. So the 2-year license, it looks like it's a $200 fee that we're billing annually at $100. And so in practice, we're trying to make the fee schedule actually match what happens in the field and with our system of billing and issuing licenses. But it's no change in the actual amount that the apartment complexes are paying.
So all the rental things under 1744010, 040, and 060, there's no change, it's just clarification.
Right, and again, below that one, you're seeing the $100 plus the $25 late fee. So we're just rewording this so that it makes it clear how the system works. And eliminating the lines before where there's the first 30 days late for each additional 30 days late. It's sufficiently clear just to say that every month you pay an extra $25 for delinquency. So we're just cleaning that up.
Okay.
The next change is on page 39.
And you've addressed this one already. It's not in the code.
Yeah, there's multiple places we have this, and it's not in there. And then we're on to the parking garage rates. Do you have any questions for planning and zoning or public works?
Any questions on anything so far?
Just very quickly, I trust that you studied 17.4412, the reinspection fee for rental units. You're just still leaving it at $100. I mean, you do this if you need to go out again and again and again. Just want to make sure that was studied. I would suggest it goes up.
Okay, we did look at that, and we will take that under consideration for the future, I suppose.
Okay, going on to parking garage rates. Hillman Garage.
I want to thank these guys. This was
Oh, yeah, they're
this was a
finished.
lot of work.
Thank you, thank you, thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gee, just think we get paid for what we do. It's a cost of work.
You can leave the chairs because we're going to have we'll have Rex and Parks come up. And we're now on to parking rates. So Kevin and Rick can address those. So again, what we're doing is we're pulling, if you look on page 41 through 45,
I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, yeah.
if you look at 41 through 45, this is the new schedule for parking rates. And then if you look at the bottom of 45 through 49, we're just striking and removing the old schedule completely and putting in a new schedule. And I'll have them go over which of these are actually changes.
And the primary purpose of this was to bring some consistency and continuity to the various garage rates. As you know, the further away from downtown, the rates, the fees are structured accordingly. And we tried to clean it up. A lot of this was based on a parking fee review that SP Plus had done for us, along with recommended increases to some of the fees. Beginning with Hillman. Hourly rate is basically consistent through the first 3 hours, and then there's some adjustments. For the most part, I think that's the bulk of the changes at Hillman.
It was a $1 increase, that was it.
$1 increase at the third hour. Yes.
So I'm sorry, you're just replacing, and so we don't see what's changed? Or has everything changed?
So here's the problem. If you go to page 45, which is the start of the old schedule, those amounts really weren't the old schedule, right?
That's correct.
Those were what, I'm sorry?
That really isn't what we've been charging since I don't know when. That has been updated many times and not reflected in the fee schedule.
So you're talking the surface lots or the garages?
The garages
And the surface lot.
and the surface lot.
And the surface lots?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm seeing, and I'll let you explain, I thought our plan was to make Hillman the most expensive garage,
That's correct.
and the furthest away, which would be
Park Place.
Park Place, would be the least expensive.
That is correct.
So is that what's reflected here?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you look at Hillman and you parked all day at Hillman and you weren't a resident, okay, you would pay $20. Anything more than 4 hours, you're paying $20.
Okay.
Okay? If you went on to page 42 and Gott's and you parked all day, you'd be paying $15.
Bless you.
So, my confusion is on Hillman. Where does it say maximum? Maybe I'm
It doesn't.
missing
You
it.
have to add them up. So if you were a non-resident, the first hour you would pay $3. The second hour you'd pay an additional $3, so that's $6. The third hour you'd pay another $4, that's $10. The fourth hour you'd pay $5 more, that's $15. And if you stayed more than 4 hours, you'd pay another $5, that's $20.
I think we do need a maximum, a lane that says how
Okay,
much.
I'll add that.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that last.
It's just
I
adding
think
up
it's
the
just-
hourly amounts below it. Okay, so the problem is or the difference is, if you're a resident, you don't pay for the first 2 hours. So the maximum daily rate for a resident is going to be $17. No, it's going to be $11. I'm sorry. So now I got to have maximum daily rate resident, maximum
Yes.
daily rate non-resident, when it's just an hourly thing. You get more than, this is how much you pay the first hour, this is how much you pay the second hour. By the time you get to 4 hours, you're paying the maximum.
It will probably alleviate a lot of questions.
Okay, we'll add it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse
Is-
me, I just wanted to interject on that. Could you add it to that lost ticket line and say maximum daily charge / lost ticket?
No, because if you were a resident, your lost ticket wouldn't be $20, it would be.
Okay, so it's different for residents.
It is 20?
It is 20.
Okay.
But
All right,
it's simpler to just add
We'll-
the extra line.
We'll fix it.
So lost ticket, no matter whether you're a resident or not, is 20? Okay. What about special events? Is that another category?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally, special events would be things like the boat show, those annual events where they charge a flat rate.
Right.
for parking.
So the special event parking for Hillman is on page 42, the third line, it's $20. The special event parking at Gott's is on page 43,
Okay.
the fourth line, it's $15. Further out,
Okay.
a lesser amount.
I thought our special event at Hillman was $25. It's $20?
I think we did use $25.
You just charge us $25, is that what you're saying? I'm just kidding.
No, that was the rate that was charged.
So you set a fee schedule, right? And when we have, and I don't have the language in front of me, but the city manager can
Right,
change the
Right.
rates temporarily based on an event.
right.
So we may charge more than this $20 rate if I decide that's appropriate for a particular event.
So do we want this to say special parking rate, special event parking $20, and then we're going to change the rate to something else?
Yes, we do want it to say this because we have to set a rate, and then there is a code provision that lets me modify it temporarily, and that's perfectly consistent. Because if I don't modify it temporarily, it's $20.
Then I think we need to say something that addresses that. Because this says special event parking is $20. Period. Doesn't say,
Okay, that-
except when the
so
city
what you're
manager
mix-
changes.
What you're mixing here, and what I'm trying to avoid mixing, is putting in a fee schedule adopted by resolution, stuff that's in the code. Right? So the code will say you adopt fees by resolution in most cases. In some cases, the code specifies a fee, or the code has provisions saying the city manager can change the fee, okay? That's code, that's ordinance.
I understand where you're coming from. However,
We
our
can-
document has to be clear to the community, to the public. And so there's got to be some notation that that amount can change.
Okay, we'll
I know
add
it
that in.
says something different in the code, and that appears to be a conflict when you say one thing in
We'll
the fee
add
schedule.
we'll add
and-
language.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm not sure how you want to continue on this one. So the special event parking for Gott's is 15, the special event parking for Knighton is 10. Special event parking at
That's what I want to get to, the monthly pass.
Park Place is 10. We have an increase on Larkin monthly. It is 170 right now.
For what? I'm sorry.
Larkin, page 45.
Oh, okay, you're talking surface
We're
lot now.
proposing 225 a month, and right now it's 170.
Have we increased Hillman monthly parking pass?
No.
Is that 250 or,
190 restricted and 250 unrestricted.
so 250 to park at Hillman and 225 to park in Larkin?
Yes.
Is that enough of a difference?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
that lot is a capacity. We could sell it for more.
okay. So are we getting the greatest capacity out of Hillman with these rates?
I guess it's dependent upon time of year, time of day.
He's correct. There's a long waiting list for Hillman. You could increase the rates and we'd still have a waiting list.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about?
What would you like it to be?
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna, don't, you want to ask me what? But I think a $25 difference is not enough, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm wrong, but I look to the parking professionals to.
Well, given the limited amount of on-street parking, it's a little difficult to set it too high, set the bar too high.
Okay.
And that results in violations on street, which is something we're trying to get away from now.
Okay. Well, that's a
Maybe-
different way to look at it. and I
Maybe with
hadn't
the
thought about
replacement
that.
of Hillman, then we'll look at increased rates.
I would agree with that.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
Could we,
Alderman.
thank you, could we do the maximum daily thing for all of the garages?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
We'll add that for all garages. Maximum daily resident, maximum daily non-resident. Okay?
Was the basis of this performance pricing, or is it just revenue-based? This isn't a performance pricing philosophy. I don't see that. I mean, they're,
We haven't gone to performance pricing yet. We're still in the
Right.
exploration stages,
okay,
probably next year,
yeah.
or
When we
with
get-
replacement of possibly with Hillman.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask, do we have a waiting list for Larkin and South Street also?
There is no waiting list for South Street. Larkin, I don't believe that there is, but we've never, in my time, since 2013, I've never added or lost a parker at Larkin. Most of them are businesses, and they just transfer them to another employee.
Okay.
South Street is the same. We will add 3 or 4 during legislative session, but we also try to keep that open for the courthouse as well, so that we don't hurt our daily transient revenue as well. That's where we make the bulk of the revenue out of there.
Okay, great. And so we've eliminated the next page is 46, because these are all of the old 46, 47,
49, yes.
48, 49, all of that are the old fees?
Yeah, that's all the old fees.
Okay.
No,
okay.
strictly.
Okay, so that gets us through the parking rates. And then we're on page 50, which are transit fares, and we don't have any change to those.
Okay.
And then I'm on page 51, which is recreation and parks, so I'll ask them to come up.
Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do have a question, Kevin. I'm trying to think of what it is. It comes from one of the aldermen about our parking. One of the aldermen, I guess, got ticketed.
Yes, I spoke with him on yesterday about
Okay.
this. I need to speak with you as well. You have a new tag, and that's part of the problem. We're not keeping.
I didn't get a ticket, I'm just saying, but.
If you don't give us that new tag number, you will.
Yes, I am hoping to get my old tag back.
If you do, then that's fine.
Yeah, but I haven't, DMV is slow.
I understand.
I just want to add one thing.
Yes.
Sorry, can I add one thing? The prepaying option, that's going to continue for all the garages, because that seems to be really, it works very well. I mean, it's just that unbelievable. They're paying for convenience and knowing where they're going to park, and they'll pay for it. Excellent, thank you. Okay, thanks. Thursday.
So I'm parked right.
Don't go by that. What's your breaks? There's got papers up here. Give me your papers.
My rate schedule for my car or my tag or?
We're not getting mixed up here. Okay, so we're at recreation and parks, and the first part is recreation and park fees for rentals. So the first line that's in red is trucks and park picnic pavilions 2 and 3. That's just moving it from down below. The line below it that's in red and crossed out, that's what that is. But we're distinguishing Pavilion 1 from Pavilion 2 and 3.
Are pavilions 2 and 3 smaller? Is that why the fee is different? Or in a more
Yeah,
undesirable
use them.
location, or?
Yes. Is it on? Yes.
Okay.
There
I
are
thought she
differences.
was going to talk and she just passed
That's
it
what I
right
thought.
on to you.
Okay, we're eliminating the line for the downtown recreation center. It's gone. We don't have a recreation center downtown.
Yes, that's true. Okay.
And we don't want a fee schedule that lists it unless the
No.
fee is zero.
But it was free anyway, so I mean, you know.
Yeah. Then we're just clarifying the next three, that they're, the first one for a field rental is for a 4-hour block, and the others are per court, per hour. It's just clarification.
Okay.
On the latchkey program, we do a $35 non-refundable registration fee to hold your spot for next year, and so we're just putting that in the fee schedule. I'm at the top of page 53.
Ms. Sutherland, I think I'm missing page 52.
52 is
I
just
have a
blank.
blank page.
It's blank. It is blank.
Okay.
52 is blank.
So it's latchkey,
Yes.
and so what's the change?
Adding a $35 non-refundable registration fee.
We have a blank
It's
page.
in
we
red.
don't- We don't
Page
have it.
53, page 53. At the top. Okay, and again, this formatting and stuff is part of the cleanup, because it's difficult to follow. Some are tables, some are words. So that's the only change for latchkey. In the rec center, we no longer have individual and family program memberships, and we haven't for a while. So we're eliminating that from the fee schedule. We have no changes on the membership rates at the bottom of page 53 and top of page 54. We have no change on babysitting. It's just labeling it better. And then we are to the rental rates on page 55 for Pip Moyer. And there's third line down, so the first thing that gets crossed out is program-related rentals require participants to hold program memberships or full memberships, because we don't sell program memberships. Shouldn't even be on here. If I go to the second line, after-hours meeting room, the non-resident amount should be more than the resident amount, not the same as, so that's a correction to 75, which is what we currently charge. We also didn't have a line for after-hours full meeting space, but we charge a different rate for that than full meeting space when it's not after hours. So that's...
Single court and meeting room?
No,
are
above
comparable?
that, above that. See, after-hours
Yeah.
full meeting space, that one. Then we're correcting the after-hours single court. It's not after-hours meeting room, that's above.
Okay.
So that's for a single court, and we're making the non-resident fee more than the resident. We already charge it for after-hours full gym is more than during hours full gym, but it wasn't on the fee schedule. And same thing for the auxiliary gym.
I just have a comment. This is really weird, but where the per hour is, I don't know if it's human nature to, I think that can be easily misunderstood, that those rates are, maybe it's just me, I just think that it should say per hour in the perspective columns.
I agree with you completely, and that is part of the cleanup.
Thank you.
Right? So so throughout the schedule,
Yeah.
it'll say per whatever in the description.
Yeah.
That should be the fee.
Yeah.
The fee is $10 per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of my cleanup. I'm with you.
Thank you.
And then we're to summer programs, of which the first 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, it's cleanup. We did have, in the old schedule, it had program membership language again, which was irrelevant, and it didn't specifically spell out the discount for multiple children that are enrolled, which is at the very top under the summer programs heading. And then I'm going to go down to swimming pool, because this is a change in the pool rates.
May I ask before you go to swimming pools, that first discount for camps, so if you have a second child, it's an additional $10? I don't know what.
No, if it's $195 for one kid, it's $185 for the second. It's $10
so it's
off.
$10 off.
$10
Okay.
off.
And the same thing for the third, fourth
Yep.
child?
Yep, each child is 185 instead of 195.
Okay.
The next one's not 175, it's 185.
That was,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And then I'll let the department address the increase to the pool rates.
Yes, the pool, we decided to increase the cost of the pool in various categories because with the new design, we will incur an increase in expenditures. The pool will be heated, there will be some extra staff needed, and there will be a year-round maintenance to the building where the mechanics is going to be. And so we decided that we needed to raise some of these fees.
I'm concerned. This is a community pool, and I think we're pricing ourselves out of the community. And I know we're going to accrue increased expenses for this new pool.
Yes.
But I don't want to eliminate anybody from using the pool. I would much rather, and I'm talking about the daily rate. I just have a concern about increasing the rates, at least for kids. I mean, maybe we can deal with compromising on the adults, but, and we want, I assume they're required, adults are required to be with kids. They can't just send the kids to the pool. So they have to be with them. But I would oppose raising the rates for kids.
And a child is defined as 12 and under.
I guess, yeah.
That's how we define it. So a
Yeah.
14-year-old riding their bike to the pool is going to pay the adult daily rate.
Well, then maybe we need another category.
Or just, yeah.
Or we, make it 50 cent more for a 14-year-old.
Or just make it 17 and under.
Or that. But who has to come with an adult?
Who has to-
17 and under have to come with adults?
No.
That's not gonna. So who's required to bring an adult to the pool? Is it 12 and under?
What's it? 12 and under.
Okay.
12 and under.
Okay, so I would like to see us keep the rate for 12 and under at $4. And, make it $4.50 or $5 for over 12. If they don't have to have an adult to be with them to come,
Okay.
But
So
I
12
would
and under
just,
with a paying adult, $4.
$4.
13 to 17, 5? Or you just want that to be 4 as well?
I don't know how to differentiate, so I don't know.
I would just say, the fact that a child 12 and under has to have an adult, that's a rule, that's not a fee.
Yeah,
So I would just say children 17 and under and adults 62 plus, $4.
$4, okay. What do you guys think? I mean,
Were they based, I guess my first question is, you mentioned in the beginning that I don't know if it was Teresa or Director Trader, you looked at comparable, but we don't want this, what's our objective here? To balance paying for the maintenance, et cetera, as well as keeping it affordable for the community. Was that your approach?
Yes, that was my approach. It's a modest attempt to increase the revenue because the reality is down the road, it's even going to increase even more once we attempt, to put a cover for a year-round pool. So even though we don't have the expenditures numbers right now because it's not 2020 and the pool is not built, I think you're going to find out that we will increase costs for that pool. And we will have to visit this one day because it's going to be a little unrealistic to charge these current fees when we are constantly increasing our expenditures for the pool.
Can you give me a comparable? to the closest pool?
$6 and $4 at the River Road facility
At the what
for
facility?
children.
How much?
The River Road pool, $6.
Jody, can you go to the county website, Arundel Swim Center, and pull up the rates so we can make sure we give this accurately? These are more than the county pool in River Road.
Madam Chair.
Alderman.
Just clarifying question, the youth individual pass, is that for the whole summer season, 3-month pass, or is that monthly pass?
Where are you?
You have youth individual pass, adult individual pass, $75.
Yes, that's for the season.
So for the 3-month season.
That's for the season.
So one of the things I also want to do is in the cleanup and the clarification, and I'm sorry I didn't think to do it here in presenting this, these fees really should take effect, if there is any change. Any change should take effect with the season that starts Memorial Day of FY 2020, so May of 2020, or June, Memorial Day. The existing rates should apply for July, August, if we go into September of this summer, which is also fiscal year 2020. So we want to have one rate that's this upcoming swim season. And if you do any new rates, they would take effect the start of the following season.
Well, and that was going to be my next question, because I don't think it'll be too much of it's not a hardship. I don't think we'll get too many complaints if we raise the fees when we have all these new amenities.
Well, that was my intention, and excuse me for not being very specific, but my whole perspective is to raise those fees with the advent of the new pool. I had no intentions of raising them now.
Okay, so the current fee schedule will stay in place through this upcoming season?
Yes.
Okay, so the new fee schedule is going to take effect in the spring of 2020 when the new pool opens.
That is our intention.
Okay, so we need a statement, we need a fee schedule that says that.
Okay. So what we'll do is, based on your feedback today, I'm going to go back and make all these modifications and give you not this redlined thing. I'm going to give you a cleaned up fee schedule.
Okay.
It's not going to be redlined. That's going to say this is the fee schedule for next year. It incorporates all of the feedback that you've given us today. I, as the city manager, I would agree with you. I was very concerned about raising these rates. And I think the alternative to this also is do a resident, non-resident. When that pool opens, we're going to get people that don't live in the city who are going to come to that pool because it's going to be a really attractive pool, right? So there's your chance. I mean, they didn't pay taxes to cover any of that pool or the staff or whatever it is. So I would have a resident, non-resident rate for the pool.
And we have one, but I don't think there's enough of a difference between
There's
the
no
two.
difference. We just have it as the same amount.
Yeah, we don't have one for the daily,
Right. So I would make
fees.
it,
No, oh, you're talking about the individuals. I'm
Well,
talk-
it's higher
excuse-
for the monthly
wait.
pass.
I'm talking about the passes. There is a difference, and I think there's
Yeah.
not enough of a difference
Okay.
there.
so,
That's what I was talking about.
okay, so let's just walk this through.
Okay.
First of all, we're leaving the rates the same for this swim season, and I'll make sure that that is clear.
Okay.
Secondly, for the start of the next swim season, I'm hearing that you want to leave adult at $5, do you want to leave resident adult at the same rate or not?
I would, I'm
county-
good with raising the adult rate.
Okay, the county rate is $6. We're going to
Okay.
8.
I think I'm good with raising the adult rate to $6.
Okay, so we'll raise the adult rate
Keeping the
resident.
kids where they are, because the kids can't come without the adults.
We're going to raise the adult rate to $6 resident and $8 non-resident. And then children 17 and under and seniors 62 plus, we're going to leave it as $4 for a resident, and we're going to make it $6 for a non-resident.
But if this isn't kicking in until next summer, why not just wait till next year's budget to do it? Because that'll be in time. to
Because
get
the
it done.
fee schedule is for all of fiscal year 2020, so you will have a month of the swim season under the new pool
Right.
that's in fiscal year 2020.
Right.
And there's no
Okay.
pool now, so.
okay?
Well, there is a pool now. The pool's going to be open.
There will be,
this
It'll be open
season.
on time.
But it will open before we do the budget for 2021.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so let me go back to adult, resident, $6, non-resident, the county non-resident is 10.
Okay,
for
so
daily.
8. I say 8. I know you. 8's good. That's what's proposed here. I know you want to go.
But I'm going down on my resident. I'm trying to generate revenue to
I
cover
know.
costs here.
I think we can pick it up in the passes, to be honest with you.
Okay, then I have $4 for children and seniors, resident, $6 non-resident, and again, that's 8 at the county for a non-resident. Children,
What is the county for children?
it's 4 for a resident, 8 for a non-resident.
So they don't delineate for children?
Children.
Okay, that is children.
Ages 3 to 17.
3 to 17,
It's
okay.
4, yeah, and actually, we are
Well, there's
under
our
3,
answer.
3.
Yeah.
So we want to make ours to 17. That was your proposal, to make it.
So we're going to have
To
youth
17.
ages 3 to 17 and seniors ages 62 plus will be $4 for a resident, and then you tell me whether you want 6 or 8 for a non-resident.
8 for non-resident, 6 for
Okay.
resident.
All right.
But it's child through 17, right?
Correct.
Not 2, because that means they can't bring, don't we have a baby pool?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then that takes us to family pass?
And we have family passes, youth individual, adult individual, and pool parties.
So is that for the whole season again?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredibly low. Just to someone, I've been both a member of this pool, but also others, and other pools often go from the low end is probably about 500 all the way up. Usually they're up around $1,000 for the season, and
For a public pool?
no, for private. But I think, I get and I support keeping it low for residents, but I think that should get bumped up significantly for non-residents, especially for the new pool.
For which category? on
For the
this list?
family, well, for all the passes, really.
And what do
family-
you think the non-resident rate should be? Because this is a
I'd say-
matter of what does the market bear?
Yeah,
Right.
does the market bear?
Right, it's not a matter of,
Well, I mean, just based on my experience, I haven't done as much research as the director may have, but I'd say it could be 300 and still be, or even 350 and still be.
What's the
competitive.
county? Does the county have family passes?
But we're seasonal, don't forget. We're
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, like seasonal pools.
yeah, so
and
the county
community.
pass is $330 for a youth and $475 for adults and $330 for seniors, but that's for 12 months.
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
They're year-round.
Well, your department, Mr. Trader, came up with the 175 and 200. How'd you get to those numbers?
Well, those numbers have been there for quite some time.
No, the
No,
increases.
it's-
These are your
Oh, for the change,
increases.
yes.
Change. So it was 160, it's gone to 175, it was 185, it's gone to 200, so those are all changes.
This is,
Increases.
this is a modest attempt to raise revenue for, for the pool.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
We are making an attempt to increase the revenue of the pool. We thought it was a reasonable increase, not unreasonable.
Okay. Ms. Jennings, you're the pool lady.
Yeah, but I think when we were sitting down and we were chatting about it, we were trying to make it an easier number that people would actually pay for it, and looking at getting more folks to buy the passes rather than making it out of reach for people. We thought, 200 is probably just about the limit for a non-resident, because we wanted people to be able to buy our passes. At this point, we sell probably around 40 passes per year, but we would like to see that number.
Non-residents, or
Just all across just everything.
how many of those are non-residents?
I don't have that figure right now.
But we're going to have a brand-new pool with all these amenities. I'm good if you're good with the 175, but I agree we should bump up the out-of area or out of non-resident. Not to 300, though, but maybe to 225.
225.
And we can always have a sale. You know, if you sign up, if we find out that memberships are not working, you know, we can say, if you get your membership during this week, you get this price. If you wait, you get this price. And I know that's a nightmare for finance people, but we can always have a sale, you know, if it isn't working.
Although coming when we were first starting, we sort of were thinking about when we're coming out of the gate. So here we are, we're opening up this grandiose, unbelievable facility, and we wanted to get the numbers right. And I'm glad that we're working on it to get the numbers right and sort of hold true, because again, you know, as you were saying, that for this budget, it's only for the end of May through June. And then we'll keep it obviously through budget 2021 as well. But, and I think at that point, we could really see what our numbers are looking like and see if we need to adjust. But I'd like to get the right numbers so we could come out flying.
But what I think we're saying is, the new rates that we're writing down right now will take effect when the new pool opens.
Exactly.
So we won't wait until we approve the new 21 budget.
But those will flow in, I believe, if we're making them now, they'll flow into the next budget.
We could adjust them at that time, is what you're saying.
But I don't know why we would do that, because then it would be just a month, you know what I'm saying? A month for this budget, and then to adjust them.
Okay.
So we have to think of that we're going into 2 budget cycles is sort of my thought process.
I'm still worried about that, because this is going to be an amazing facility.
Yeah.
And it's going to be much better than even a lot of the private facilities, which are, again, 4 times as high as this rate that we were looking to charge. I mean, do we have any idea about, you know, maybe at this rate, I could see us, granted, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but seeing us getting a huge amount of people signing up for this at this rate for this new pool.
Great.
Do we have an idea of do we have a cap? Do we have a level of how many people we know this pool is going to be able to support? Or is this just unlimited, as many people can buy these passes as they want?
Yes, right now, the way that it's designed, it can hold 850 people. But myself, as the pool supervisor, I feel that we should keep that number much lower, because I think that's a lot of people to manage in that space, and a lot of people in the water, and especially for staff. And then also with some of the noise pollution as well. So I would say, you know, maybe 500 or so, you know, that's sort of where I was thinking.
So I'd like to, you know, I'm still worried that the non-resident is too low, because if we're going to be having, yeah, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but if we think we're going to get close to that cap of people, I'd rather have that be our residents as opposed to the non-residents who are getting this amazing rate. I mean, it's hard to say without doing some of the market research about some of the other pools, seasonal pools and their rates, or just the general pools and their 3-month rates, but I'm just not quite comfortable at this point.
Well, you mentioned the fact that the pools are year-round pools. And so this is a 3-month pool, is that pretty much
In general.
The ones I was referring to are the private 3-month pools, community pools, or like pools at marinas, pools at community associations that people can buy into.
Okay.
And those rates are much higher. But I don't know if the YMCA, if we looked at their pools, I think those are all year round though, but maybe they have an equivalent 3-month pass that we can look at for comparison.
I would be concerned about comparing ourselves to private clubs. Because we're a public facility. But, I mean, we have the county rates. So, and the counties, could you repeat what the county charges? But there, again, that's year-round.
Right. So, annual pass for a youth is $330. Annual pass for an adult is $475, and a senior is $330.
I have a question.
Okay, so divide those by 4, and what do you come up with? And again, it's their enclosed pool.
82 for a youth.
Okay, and we are at 75. And
120 for an adult, roughly. You're making me do math in my head.
Okay.
We're just a little bit below those numbers.
We're just a little below on all of those categories. Okay.
But I also think there is a market that's very different for an outdoor seasonal,
Yeah.
fun recreational pool than an indoor swim center. It's a different,
Although,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not convinced that we've studied this adequately, and we could lose an opportunity. We don't want to change the membership rate and just say, uh-oh, we didn't anticipate this many people or this less people. I would suggest that you do an analysis of the increased capacity, expected increase, weigh it against comparables. I'm not convinced that that was done. I mean, I hear that you're covering, the director's covering staff, you're covering conservative numbers. We just need to study this
Okay,
more
how about if we do
comprehensively.
this? How about if we modify the existing fee schedule to simply say it is the rates through, let's just say October 1st, 2020, because the season will be well over by then, and we will come back to you in a subsequent separate resolution to establish the fees to take effect with the opening of the new pool.
Yeah, it definitely, I see increased capacity in the numbers, and
Okay, we'll
yeah,
do that.
Thank you.
so keep the notations that we've made, though. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, existing rates will continue until October of this year.
Yeah. Yeah, the end of this season.
Yeah, September, end of early September.
Okay, so that's all we have on the fee schedule.
Okay, what about facility rates at
That's
Pip Moyer?
all.
Did we do that
went over
already?
that, I think. What page
Oh,
you
we did
on?
that.
56, 57.
Okay.
We went over 55 and 56.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, and 58, I'm deleting the water and sewer rates from the fee schedule. They don't belong in the fee schedule adopted by resolution. We went through this last year. I have no idea how it ends up here in the appendix to the code, but it's a separate issue. The utility rates are established, as long as they don't increase more than 5%. We don't need your approval to do it, but we're required to submit the water and sewer rate study, which I submitted to you at the last council meeting in the city manager reports, of which I'm going to give you an updated one this coming meeting, that doesn't change the rates in any way. There was just a table that had an error in it that the consultant corrected. So, so this just simply does not belong in the fee resolution.
Okay.
So we're going to take it out. And that'll all be cleaned up. We'll go back with everything we have talked about today. I'm comfortable with all of the changes. I'm certain when I discuss them with the mayor, I'm certain he will be as well. So we'll come back with a cleaned up fee schedule for you to approve.
Okay. Are you ready to make a motion to approve the fee schedule?
Well, it would be based on a lot of follow-up, so I'm not sure if that's...
A lot of what?
Follow-up and,
Well, we've decided that we're not going to deal with the increase or changes in fees for the pool.
Right.
So what else?
Well, as we went along, there were some...
Well, that's going to be cleanup. What you're approving is the fee amounts, right?
Yeah, so that's-
I can do the cleanup language. I don't need to bring that to you for approval. You're
Right.
approving the fee amounts.
I'm
Other than
suggesting-
the pool, I think you've agreed to the fees.
I think there was one in the liquor about the $5.
I'm going to get back to you on that one.
So,
Right,
yeah, that's like, I'd like to move
you'd
that we
rather wait,
approve it
and I think
as...
Rob is waiting on grading permit information as well.
Okay. So do you want to take a tentative vote on the fee schedule as presented pending the two?
So my only thing is, you're going to have to get something, your recommendations. Well, actually, you really don't. Your recommendation doesn't have to go by May 13th on this. This is a resolution.
I know.
It's not the budget ordinance. Your recommendations on the budget ordinance have to go by May 13th.
Where is it in legislation?
It's in a resolution 16, 17, something like that.
It's on-
16. R1619 is the fee schedule.
Okay. And we agreed, we approved that yesterday, didn't we do that? R16?
No.
Okay.
No, this is...
Okay. Yes.
I know.
Okay. Okay, so we don't have to take an action on it. We'll get the, will we get that information tomorrow?
On the fee schedule?
Yeah.
No.
When will we get the cleanup of the fee schedule?
When I can get to it. I have police chief interviews all day tomorrow. I have police chief interviews all day the next day. I will get it to you as soon as I can. There's only so many hours in the day.
Help us help you. What is productive to do today as far as, are we holding you up with this if we don't take action?
I would say, not really. I mean, the thing is, the fee schedule needs to be adopted by June, by the time that you adopt the budget, right? The fine schedule needs to be adopted by the time you adopt the budget.
Right, we need it attached to the legislation.
Yeah, we'll get it cleaned up in time for all that to happen, and we'll, in the meantime, we will bring back to the Finance Committee the alcohol license, and we'll do an analysis on the grading permit stuff. And was there a third thing? I think that was it.
I think that was it. The garages?
That's just cleanup, putting the maximum daily rate in. Doesn't change the fees that you're approving, it's just cleanup. So, liquor license, grading permits. And other than that, you have agreed with, as far as I understand, with the fees as shown in this red line version. So I'm just going to clean up language, you know, like the per hour thing and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I'll get to it when I can.
Yeah. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you very much. You guys have done a great job. May I have the...
I have one item I'd want to, I have, Teresa pointed out that I had a couple of minor errors in the schedule that I gave you earlier.
On the police?
Yeah,
I
on
mean,
the fire. I just wanted to pass it out to you, and then I've highlighted what was wrong.
Okay.
It wasn't affect the salary benefits I did it too late last night.
That's okay.
But it's, I shaded the cells that have changed. Yeah, it's just the $15 that I took, 15,000 I took out was actually part of the beginning balance, and then this changed. I didn't have the correct numbers at the beginning here.
But the bottom line is the same.
Yeah. I started with the wrong number. I took it from the wrong column on my schedule. So
Okay, so
what that did was remove the negative 15.
The 15,
And it's actually was 56. And then this was 344, and it just changed my bottom number. They were the miscellaneous changes.
okay. So we can get rid of this old one.
Yeah.
344 is the 2.5%.
Oh. Did you get another one? Did she hand you one?
Jen?
Hi, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Oh.
You too.
Teresa. So I had, you and I don't do it, but we never did clear on the conversation. I can't remember. It didn't go to Jacqueline?
Okay.
So that's kind of back to you, and I said changes, and I...
But send it to Jacqueline.
Okay, yeah, I will. I just want to make sure you know. So I already did.
And may I ask what else you guys have to cover? Because I have a meeting with the mayor, and and I need to figure out what I'm doing. Legislation. Okay. Do we have
I not have a tab for
012, 016, and 017.
Well, that's capital. Okay.
Where those are,
What?
where the legislation is in the pipeline.
Why is this not working?
We went through yesterday, didn't we? Which ones that we... What?
These are the ones that are on the agenda today.
So they are, the ones that we haven't done are on the agenda, let's see.
No, I know, I just wanted to know where they were. I mean, are they up on, were they passed on first reader?
They were already passed on first reader. They all had public hearing last Monday.
They're all subject to public hearing.
They already had it.
Where are the
Did we leave the public hearing open or no?
Not for these, it was the resolutions for fees and fines, I believe.
Is that what was left open? Because they didn't have them attached.
Those are
fees
the only
and
two
fines.
left open. So now they go to committee, which would be rules.
I have a couple of cleanup items from yesterday, too.
I'm sorry.
A couple of cleanup items for yesterday.
Okay.
I passed out the fiscal note, the revised fiscal note for R1519. We were talking about it yesterday. This is all the position changes, and the online version, it has not been updated. The online version of the staff report and fiscal impact note. And I passed that out to you earlier. I just wanted to point that out.
So what's that attached to?
It's R1519, staff report and fiscal impact note. The city manager and I had done one earlier, and we revised it with a fiscal impact page that has more details per position as far as what the fiscal impact was.
Okay.
That's something that the committee had asked for.
Yeah, you gave us.
Yeah. I gave that to you earlier today. And you also had asked me yesterday about DPW's positions and the fiscal impact for the...
Is this my copy? Okay.
The fiscal impact on the DPW positions.
Which one? There's the fees and fines.
That could be yours. What?
I'm sure there's no more over there. Or maybe that's what I,
previously, right? No. This is the revised one that I handed out. I don't know whose copy this is. Today. And this is the new section.
so you have your copy?
No, this is the old one, right? Is that what we're replacing? Yes. That's what you're replacing. I don't know
Okay,
who
so
this is.
maybe I don't know what I,
Let me see yours. Is there 4 pages or 2? No, you have the old one there. It's should be here somewhere. Do you have extra copies, Takia? I gave you a stack.
Anyways.
could you, okay, go ahead. Toby, we have.
When was this requested? Did we request it yesterday?
Yeah, the positions in DPW.
Right, so when we were talking about this yesterday, you had asked about the fiscal impact of the position changes in DPW. And I'll call your attention to the fiscal impact section. It would be page 3 in the document. And there are 3 positions on here in DPW that had a fiscal impact. The first one is...
You didn't read it. I mean, what you gave us today is dated April 7th.
No, I didn't change the date on the front.
You did change
Yeah.
the date?
No, I did not change the date on the front yet.
Okay, that's important.
Okay. Yeah, and I will before I upload it to the internet site, because it's got to have an updated date.
Okay, so the positions that have a fiscal impact,
Yes, DPW. In the second table there, you see it's headed, the title is grade changes only. The first position, Public Works Supervisor, that's in the general fund, and in the Streets Division, and the fiscal impact of that grade change is $7,400 annually. Okay, the second position is the Environmental Programs Coordinator, which is in the Water Reclamation Fund, which is $5,800 impact. The only other one that's a DPW position is the last one on the page there, new titles and grades, Solid Waste Contract Administrator. And that's a $7,400 impact, but that's in the refuse fund, one of the enterprise funds.
and it's in which fund?
refuse
Refuse.
or solid waste.
Okay, so this does have other changes also.
Yeah, it's
ones
got
you're
all
pointing out were
all
just
the related changes, but you had only asked about the public works, so I thought I'd highlight those for you.
So this is based on, you have an environmental programs coordinator. Where is that person? Does it matter where that person is?
That's the water information, right? That's racing.
Let me see. I don't have it. Which position is it, Ms. Judy?
Proposal was to go to Public Works.
Environmental Programs Coordinator is going to Public Works and the Watershed Restoration Fund.
Okay.
Another enterprise fund. That's what I thought.
Right. Okay, are you okay? The same would be of the forester. The forester is, where's?
Forester goes to Planning and Zoning.
And that increase, does that fiscal impact change if? Yeah, okay, so this is the $5,800 add if it moves to planning and zoning.
It
Is that
moves
a
it
fair
to Planning and
statement?
Zoning, and it upgrades the position from a grade 12 to a grade 13, because the position will have the duties of reviewing and signing off on forest conservation and forest delineation plans and other permit requirements that fall under planning and zoning, that the position does not currently have sign-off authority.
So are these, I'm looking at the fiscal impact, are these a sum total of all of the position changes and the impact, fiscal impact of all of them?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a total of,
You want me to add it up?
It has it in there, Jody.
It's
It
at the
has it in
Oh,
there.
on the bottom of page 68.8.
Yeah.
It is.
okay,
And this is cross all funds.
okay. So 68.8 is the total impact. And so their COLAs are already calculated in those numbers?
Not in
Or
these
is that part
tables,
of
no,
the,
no.
869,000 that,
If you're comparing a grade 12 to a
Yes.
grade 13,
Yes.
the COLAs are in there.
okay.
Yes, the COLAs will be in there, because we set it at the new rate, at the new salary, which would have included the COLA.
Okay. So the total impact on the budget based on negotiated items, or at least the COLA, is 869,000 for this year.
Yes, that's the approximate total of the increase overall.
Right,
Mhm.
okay. Okay. There was a question raised by Alderman Arnett about the new positions in DPW. And he suggested that there were 10 new positions. And I'm not seeing them anywhere.
There are not 10 new positions in DPW.
I didn't think there were, but,
We have to go back to DPW.
So I'm on page 94 of the budget book.
is that under DPW?
Yes, ma'am. So in the general fund, there are 2 new positions. It goes from 53 to 55.
Right.
In the water fund, there's 2 new positions shown on page 95. Goes from 26 to 28, so that is 4 positions. And in the watershed restoration fund, he might be right. It goes from 5 to 8, so
right.
that's 3.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 in solid waste and 1 in fleet maintenance.
Yeah, he's right.
Yep, that is correct. But I was thinking Public Works General Fund. That's spread out among the funds.
Yeah, it's spread out among the funds, and the fiscal note we just gave you was just when there was title changes and
Right.
upgrades. New positions would have been included in the enhancement discussion in the book.
And so coming out of the general fund would be on,
So if you look at page 94, you go from 53 to 55 positions in the
two.
general fund. Those fleet maintenance engineer 2 and fleet maintenance technician, those are the changes. Those don't require anything in what the
R15,
19. Those are existing civil service titles, existing grades. We're just adding additional positions.
Right.
Your resolution is it an ordinance or a resolution?
It's a resolution.
Your resolution is if there are changes in titles and grades.
But addressing Alderman Arnett's question, it looks like the general fund is balanced, for lack of a better word, and then your funds are where you're showing the salaries and they're paid for. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
The budget is balanced
Yes.
because recurring revenues, 2 reasons. We don't have a structural deficit because in all cases, in every single fund, recurring revenues are sufficient to cover recurring expenses. So there is no structural deficit. We do use one-time money for one-time expenses, for example, to transfer money from the general fund, capital reserve, to capital projects as pay-go, okay? So new revenue plus fund balance that is available to appropriate in every case for every fund is more than the appropriations we are requesting. And we are maintaining our fund balances per our targets and our financial administration policies.
So that's another way of saying that we're able to afford these extra positions.
That's correct. And so in the general fund, you have 2 additional positions. And you'll remember, you guys asked Public Works to bring facilities maintenance in-house. Okay? So we increased 2 positions internally for facilities maintenance, but we cut contract services by a like amount. So there's 0 fiscal impact of the change in the general fund that's shown on page 94.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
In the water fund, the position, and sewer fund, there are no changes in sewer. In the water fund, those are considered in our rate study. Okay? And we did the asset management system that requires additional positions to continue the work that was identified there. In the watershed restoration fund, we've talked about those changes. We're adding a stormwater management engineer. We're moving the environmental programs coordinator into that fund, and we're adding an office associate 3 related to the street sweeping. Again, we have a watershed rate study, and we have sufficient funds to cover those expenses. And when Greenvest is done with its work and we've identified everything we need to do, when we have adequately researched excise tax versus a utility fee, what the funds may be used for, how we can get to doing stream restoration and things that will help us meet our MS4 goals and requirements, we'll holistically do that and present something to you. In solid waste, we know the fee is going up, and we again have increases in positions there to carry out their programs. They are office equipment operators. And then in the fleet fund, we're going to have, I don't remember exactly how many, a boatload of police cars coming in that are going to require maintenance. So we're hiring a contractual mechanic to help with the maintenance of all the new vehicles. And then the contractual mechanic part-time position, that incumbent is likely to retire. When he does, we'll evaluate whether we need to refill that or whether the full-time is able to take it on. So those are the changes in each of those funds.
I don't mean to go back to DPW, but since my Alderman Arnett questioned it, why the big allocation? It's kind of out of a skew of I guess indirects in the transfers in the watershed. Why a lot of it? That transfer
You have
of funds.
You have 1.1 million, as I recall, is being transferred to the capital projects. So remember, we talked about how roughly half of our watershed restoration fund, in fact, is used for capital projects, and we went over that number on page 101.
Okay, so that's adjusted, yeah.
Yes, you have,
go to
so of the
Green Vest.
1,209,000.
That's what that is. Okay.
Of the 1,209,000 that's being transferred, 1.1 of it is being transferred as pay-go for capital projects.
Got it.
And I think you said the overall amount of money in that fund, the watershed restoration fund, is like 4 or 5 million. Is that right? I think I heard you say that before. My point is, you're not depleting that fund. It's just a
No,
portion.
if you're concerned and want to know about fund balances and where we stand, you need to look at the replacement page that we gave you for page 21. So at the end of fiscal year 19, the current year, we're projecting 4.2 million of fund balance in the watershed restoration fund. And at the end of FY 20, we're projecting we'll still have 3.7 million.
Wait a minute, you said that too fast, because that's a real mother load sheet. It's a really good sheet. Which one? You don't
So
page
page
number it.
21.
I know it's blank.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a replacement for page 21.
Yeah, you have
It's the one that you have in your left hand there, flip it back.
this guy,
Turn it,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
Okay, the third line from the bottom.
This is really helpful.
The third line from the bottom, the Watershed Restoration Fund, the fourth column, shows you that the projected fund balance at the end of fiscal year 19 is $4,194,785. I have revenue next year, I have expenses next year, I have projected fund balance at the end of 20 of $3,745,095.
Right, that's what I meant by my previous comment about protecting the fund balance remaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually, I love this sheet.
I'm looking for 21.
It's actually printed landscape, if that helps you at all. It's printed in the landscape direction, meaning this way.
Just give her yours.
Here, you can have mine. I can reprint it. I can reprint it. It was passed out a couple
I
of
have
meetings
a
ago.
blank 21.
So put that in and label it page 21.
It's in the upper corner there, it says replacement page 21, I think.
Here, Jody, if you need to look, you can look at it.
Okay, then where would I put it? And it wouldn't have gone in the...
I know, but put it in there right now, right by 21.
I know.
You'll find it at some point, it'll be back in the back or something.
So does that answer Alderman Arnett's question? I think that's how this all
Well, I
started.
think we had the answer in the other... the other sheets with the different funds, the fact that only 2 of those items come out of the general fund. Everything else comes out of the appropriate
And the 2 in the
fund.
general fund are replacements, because you, the Finance Committee, asked to bring facilities maintenance in-house, and contract
Right.
services were cut by a like amount. It is a zero cost impact.
All right, well, it's on to the, legislation. So these are the replacement pages.
You're ahead of me, you have all your legislation.
Yeah, and I'm taking out the old sheets and putting in the new ones. These are the ones from yesterday, Takia. Anyway, okay. Okay, so let's see, what's the agenda say? So we start with 01219.
So, Madam Chair, you're going to take that up today? You're going to take that up today?
Yes.
Because I assume that Director Gobb was here to help answer any questions.
Who?
Director Guild, who was here earlier.
Oh, okay. She,
Can somebody call her?
And I have to leave myself pretty soon. I did have some amendments in it.
well, we're just going down the list. Yesterday, we went through what was left to be completed.
Is there
So
any-
we have 012, 016, 017.
Would you be open to any kind of postponement till tomorrow?
Well, can you call her? I mean, she's working today, right? I
Well, it's
mean,
not just for her, but myself too. I wasn't anticipating spending 3 hours on fee schedule.
Are you able to spend any more time today? Like, if we started?
You want
I
to,
mean, I can
yeah.
explain my amendment to you, but
Okay, is this the amendment you gave us this morning?
I know I also have questions for Director Guild and
And I
Ms.
have,
Sutherland.
and I also have questions on your amendments. So,
But let's see what the chair wants to do.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we want to get finished this today. Tomorrow, we have another agenda. Actually, tomorrow, we're supposed to get started on our report for Monday. So
okay.
if we can, the plan was to get through the legislation today. And we have another 50 minutes. So do you want to share with us your
Sure.
amendments?
So the underlying ordinance seeks to make a couple of adjustments to some of the positions and departments, offices in the city, one of them being the Office of Emergency Management. And I think there's some amendments from the mayor that would add in there changes to the MIT and to HR. But the changes that I'm focusing on with my amendments are those related to the Office of Environmental Policy. What I would like to do is what I'm trying to do with the amendments is to pull out any of the reorganization proposals for the Office of Environmental Policy from this ordinance, because I do have concerns and issues with the proposed changes to the Office of Environmental Policy. I'm not proposing to make any changes associated with creating a new department. My idea was to at least just pull this out of the budget and we can deal with that question later. So that's why I just focus on removing those changes. So the reason I propose this is, or the reason I'm opposed to some of these changes is because I do feel like it shifts policy away from the council and to the mayor's office in possible conflict with our charter. Two, I believe it inserts instability in our environmental programs because it puts it really at the whim of the new mayor. Who knows who we're going to get next. And the third is it puts too many duties into one position, the advisor position. So in terms of how it potentially conflicts with our charter, if you look at the proposed, well, first of all, if you look at the charter, it says in Article 1, Section 3, it talks about declaration of principles. Making of policy is a matter for elected officials, the mayor and aldermen, alderwomen, who are directly accountable to the voters. Appointed officials who are trained and experienced in public administration carry out or implement policy. And so I bring that up because there's a distinction between who creates policy. I think it's important to make sure that the appointed officials are not the ones who are
I'm sorry, could you reference
directly-
that for 3?
Oh, yeah,
Are you
it's
looking?
Article 1, Section 3 in the charter.
Okay.
I think that's an important distinction to make sure that appointed officials are not getting too far into that policy realm. And so if you look at the proposed job description for the environmental advisor, it says, advisor is responsible for developing and advising the mayor on legislative policy related to environmental policy and protection. And so it's responsible for developing and advising policy for the mayor. But if you look at the old language, which was passed a couple years ago when they created the Office of Environmental Policy Director, it says, the director of the office advises the city council in establishing legislative policy affecting all aspects of municipal government. So there's that difference in language. One is, the one being proposed really puts the onus on the mayor in terms of advising and developing policy for the mayor. The old language is more along the lines of simply advising the city council. And I like having that idea of the city council being part of this, because we are the policymakers. I think we need to be able to have staff be able to communicate with us about and make recommendations to us, or the committees about policy that's getting developed. So that's my concern with that part of it. And in terms of how I believe it breaks the continuity of environmental programs by putting it in the mayor's office, because it does make it, put it at risk with a new administration that may come in. And in terms of duties, I believe it does put too many duties into one office, into one advisor position. There were duties that were once held by 3 or 4 different people. Pulls responsibilities from the environmental program coordinator and puts them into, and even pulls them from the city forester and puts them into this advisor position. And that's it's a lot for one position to have. It includes responsibilities such as the MS4 permit coordination, sustainability efforts, grant work. So those are my 3 main concerns, and that's why I proposed what I did.
May I ask, I'm not clear about your, the position that the mayor is part of the city council. So he has an equal, or she has an equal voice to the council. But this position currently answers to the city manager. And so changing it out of the mayor's office would leave it under the realm of the city manager and not under the, I don't want to use the word control, but control of the city council. So I'm not clear on what you're saying as far as the line of authority is concerned.
Well, what I'm advocating is to keep the line of authority the same.
So answering to the city
Answering to the city
manager.
manager. I'd rather have that with the current job description, which clearly states that they're providing policy advice to the council, which, as you said, includes the mayor. And the proposed change by the administration has that simply focusing on the mayor, policy, developing and recommending policy to the mayor. And I think that development part I'm a little concerned about as well, because I feel like that gets into our area of responsibility.
So what if it changed to a policy advisor to the council instead of the mayor?
Well, I think that's how it's currently set up, currently worded.
Well, but that person answers to the city manager, not to the council.
Right.
I would want to ask the Office of Law where the lines are. The city council is the legislative body.
Right.
City council does not supervise direct employees.
Okay, exactly. Well, that's what I'm getting
Right.
to.
So I couldn't agree more that it's the elected officials who are the policymakers. And the way the elected officials make that policy is by enacting legislation that is then, in accordance with the charter, carried out by the appointed officials in the section that
Right,
Alderman Savage pointed out. So since you do not supervise employees, since you cannot direct employees. As we looked at the job description, we thought the existing job description was inappropriate because it was giving advice to the city council as opposed to the mayor. The mayor would propose policy changes, and just like any committee can call, you know, a department director, me, whoever up, you know, we give you input. So the mayor is looking, in fact, to propose policy that is adopted by the elected officials, which is how you make the policy, which is then carried out by the city staff.
I think that blurs, I don't think that's the way to go. Because currently, I think we have staff that often come to our committees, and they do make policy recommendations about needing to change code and things like that. And that's where, if you change this to say that the advisor cannot be making such recommendations to the council, that takes away our ability to get feedback from the staff. When
Nowhere does it say
the charter also says, though, that policy, that people who are appointed are not the policy makers.
I agree. You are the policy makers.
People who are appointed are the ones who implement the policy.
That's correct.
And so this advisor position is appointed, so they should be making advice and not developing policy.
Correct. So they are advising the mayor
That's not how the position's worded. The position's worded as developing and advising the mayor on policy.
We can remove the word developing. It was to have that person research and come up with what the policy would be that that advisor is recommending to the mayor, that the mayor can then propose, that the city council can then adopt if they so choose, which is how the city council makes the policy. I'll be happy to remove the word develop from the job description. No problem. And in regard to your other part, you are the policy makers. You are the policy makers on whether we do this, right? We'll be happy to draw up whatever your amendments are. You all make the decisions. I will say that I don't think these are in proper amendment form. I understand you want them this way, so I'll just get that on the record.
I based it off of what Jacqueline.
I understand your intent, but Jacqueline had drafted something different that carried out your intent, and this is not, while it shows your intent, it's not proper amendment form, and I can give you an example if you'd like. But my point is that if you'd like us to remove development of policy out of that job description, we'll be happy to do that. And if you'd like to add, advise the mayor and city council, I will ask the city attorney whether that's appropriate or not.
Well, I mean, I think my underlying issue is I want to make sure the council is included. I feel like there's this effort to kind of really sideline the council in terms of holding our, because we don't have staff at our, we can't direct staff.
That's right.
But we do have staff come to our committees. You know, I've had planning and zoning come to us and give us ideas on
And I can assure you the planning and zoning director's job description doesn't say advise the city council on policy. Right? So they come to you, they do give you their...
advise the mayor on city policy? I mean,
I'd have to look at the job descriptions, but there are no job descriptions I am aware of, other than the Office of Environmental Policy, that include that language.
But I think that was the way it was set up by the last council. It incorporated that idea. Obviously, that's what the council was looking for at the time. They had a lot of deliberation on this at the Environmental Matters Committee underneath Alderman Littman. And again, that was one of the ideas about having it underneath the city manager's office, was to give it that authority and to have them be able to work with the departments. And I'm not sure why moving it under the mayor's office doesn't seem appropriate, because they're not the ones who are supposed to be directing the staff either. That comes from, you are the manager, your office is the manager of our staff. So
of our departments.
Of our departments. So it seems like your office would be a much more appropriate place for environmental policy, unless you want to make it a department, but your office would be much more appropriate than putting it in the mayor's office, who really should not be getting involved in that level of management of staff.
This has been, for me, a back and forth for a number of years. And our original department, of which you were a part, had a responsibility. And I want to believe, I observed that it was more personality driven that that department all of a sudden wasn't adequate. And there were steps taken to not only eliminate the department and the staff within it, but to eliminate the people in it. So that happened. DNET was eliminated, and the staff within that department was disseminated to two other departments. And then in the last administration, or in this administration, I guess, it was just, well, I've lost track of time. There was a need to all of a sudden start anew and resurrect a department. Not that there was not the job getting done in the appropriate places, and I say the appropriate places because that's where they were doing the jobs. But now all of a sudden we have to go back and kind of resurrect a department we didn't like to begin with. And that concerns me. I feel like we're being manipulated in this whole thing. Okay? That's not how you conduct business running a city. It's how you manipulate things to get whatever you want. But it doesn't mean it's the right way to go about it. Our staff is being bounced around depending upon the whim of the elected officials and the voice of some, not a majority, but some. And I'm not sure that's what we should be into. We are policymakers, okay? We have changed the code to create a professional city manager to direct all of our departments. I think that we have to follow the direction and the guidance of that professional staff. And so, you know, efforts to control beyond that person's knowledge and wisdom, I think is inappropriate. You know, this reorganization by the mayor didn't come on his whim, but I suspect a lot of people who are probably smarter than all of us came up with these solutions. And it's not just one. We're picking on one because that's our interest. But there are other reorganizational tools in this legislation that will serve the entire city well. And so to pick and choose what we feel good about, I mean, that's your right to do that. But I just think we're going down a path that we've been down before, and we shouldn't be going down again. So I know your amendments are all about taking out any language of moving the environmental policy department, I mean, out of, we're not putting it in the city, in the mayor's office. That's what this is all about. So that's your amendment, and that's what's on the floor right now for the finance committee. So,
yeah. This is, I think my colleagues know that I'm on the fence with this, is I have to say the council is at a disadvantage here because the mayor did institute policy by putting a budget together that incorporates this policy change. So it makes it very difficult to say no. And I agree with my colleague, Alderman Savage, if his amendment is to sort of take it out and have the existing baseline. Again, we're at a very, it's at a disadvantage because I agree with the other parts of it. I totally agree we're putting people where they do the work. I do need, here's my question. I kind of wish I had legal advice on the existing charter. Let me read it because it's very important. The making of policy is a matter for elected officials, the mayor and aldermen, who are directly accountable to the voters. Okay, we all agree on that, I think. Appointed officials who are trained and experienced in public administration carry out or implement policy. Presently, I would say that that position would categorize Director Guild. She was appointed, correct? And trained and experienced in public administration, carry out or implement policy. Then it says the city's chief executive officer. It changes terms. One would ask, who is the city's chief executive officer?
Defined as the mayor.
Carries out I don't know why it switched on that, that carries out the implementation of policy with elected and appointed officials in federal, state, and local agencies and experienced professionals. So this was his first step in that, by giving us a budget that incorporates this. So I do agree with Alderman Savage in pulling it out, because I'm not convinced either one is going to pass. And then the question is, okay, how do we deal with the existing problem? And I personally want the added, I believe from a project perspective, the need is this coordination with stormwater seems to be our biggest problem. So ideally, on paper, I would love to see that added stormwater management position. I understand it can't be funded, put in the environmental policy office, and then you have one in DPW. I mean, I'm looking for a fix, and those two people would coordinate and say, we're looking at a project together. What are the MDE requirements? What can we do more? All that stuff that isn't happening now. And that would be sort of my stopgap measures to have, one position someplace working with the existing Office of Environmental Policy. So then the question is, well, what is that? Who then, with the existing Office of Environmental Policy, we have that operational question problem addressed, then who institutes citywide environmental policy? And who is that person, and where should that person be? I think right now, with the volatility of not having a department of planning, not having a department head in planning and zoning, not having a city attorney, I think we're just too volatile right now to make such a substantial change. And I strongly, support not having it in the mayor's office, but filling these positions, so the stormwater positions, so that we can solve an immediate problem. And then talk more, not be kind of forced with it with the budget, but to pull it out aside, table it, if you will, and then have a discussion on what do we have now, what are the weaknesses, and address it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do agree with you.
I'm assuming that your amendment, I was trying to cross-reference all your thing, is just addressing that position. I think it does.
Yeah, because I think you're right. It is a larger discussion, and it prevents making all these staff changes like Alderman Finlayson's talking about. So I think it does require a larger conversation. I would not have introduced mine quite so early, but I only did it because the mayor was proposing this option. So I'm happy to postpone mine and pull this out, and we can have a larger discussion as a council about what way to go forward, because it's a lot to have right now on top of everything else we have to talk about in the budget.
Colleague Alderwoman Finlayson I discussed earlier, because I told her how I wasn't supporting this, and then she immediately said, so you're supporting the department? No, I think just because you oppose one doesn't mean that you support the other. I think that we have to step back and say, why isn't this? It was a big deal to form that Office of Environmental Policy.
It was a big deal to eliminate the other one also.
Well, that's what we did to do it, right? I mean, that was...
No, not quite. That didn't happen that way. But anyway.
DNAP was disassembled. Disbanded to have the Office of Environmental Policy.
Years lapsed between the two. One wasn't contiguous to the other.
So we realized I thought that was done at the same time.
No, it was not. It was not. It was not.
How could you dissolve?
No, it was all.
How could you dissolve DNAP and not have an environmental policy?
Okay, do your research. It was not disbanded at the same time. One was done under Panelides administration, and the other one, well, I don't know when the new department was created, but it was not at the same time.
It was all under Panelides.
Well, then it may have been, that would have been 4 years, but it did not happen at the same time.
Well,
Was it an ordinance, or what was?
Well, what would they have
But-
done with?
Well, we
It's a moot
need to,
point, but-
we're going beyond, so if there's no motion on 01219, then we can go on. And if you want to leave this for a larger discussion by the full body, so be it. Alderman Arnett will be back tomorrow, so he may want to bring it back again.
But we need to amend the budget, because the budget right now is showing that policy in the mayor's office. I don't
Well,
know.
do you want to make a motion from the Finance Committee?
I would motion that we accept Alderman Savage's amendment on 012-19.
Well, I can't second
I
that,
know.
so
That's what I
we
mean.
can just move on to 01619, because we're not going to.
And if I
get-
might, just to make sure you understand, should the council adopt this amendment as it is worded, it is going to have other consequences
Okay, that's what I
because it
was
is not
asking,
in
yeah.
amendment form. So, just so you're aware of
Yeah.
that. I mean, like, it's
Well, you're
eliminating.
recommending, I think.
Rob, you have page 10, page 7, line 10, remove the proposed changes to 308, I'm sorry, page 7, line 10, 308030. That means you're not only making a change for environmental policy, but you are eliminating the Director of Emergency Management position. You have, on page 2, lines 9 through 33, remove all the proposed changes. The proper way to do that would be on page 1, strike line 37, and on page 2, strike lines 9 through 33. I mean, that accomplishes what you're trying to accomplish, but what I'm trying to say is, this is not an amendment form.
Well, no,
And-
you're actually
and some
incorrect
of your
because
changes have
the one
unintended
on
con-
page 7, line 19, I see what you're saying. It removes the whole table, but the only thing in the table right now. Oh, no, I see. It does add.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So when you said that you wanted these things done, Jacqueline drafted amendments. I looked at those amendments. I believe she sent you those amendments.
She did, and then she posted them without my permission.
I didn't, that's not me.
And I
Doesn't
changed- I
fall
know,
under me.
I'm just saying.
Okay? But
what
my point is that
Because I
these...
wanted to review them beforehand.
Okay, so what I want to do is make sure that your amendments, should they pass, are exactly
Yeah.
what you intend and want them to be. I don't believe these are.
Okay, well, it didn't get
So-
a second today anyway, but, so I will.
I just want to
Work
make
with
sure
Jacqueline on
that
that.
it's exactly what you intend, Alderman Savage. I'm trying to
understand,
serve
thank
you
you.
at the best of my ability.
I understand.
Okay, 01619. And Rob, I trust you'll bring back your amendments to tomorrow's meeting and with the corrections. I would hate to see any unintended consequences from this from your amendment, impacting OEM and other changes.
So I would
that are-
suggest you look at what Jacqueline sent you.
She said something else gets
I,
essentially this.
whatever, you said she uploaded something
She uploaded a completely different version.
that
I originally was
accomplishes
gonna-
what you're trying to accomplish in proper amendment form.
No, it doesn't. No, what I was
then
originally,
we-
what I was originally proposing was to actually insert language creating the environmental department. What I'm proposing now is to remove all mention of
Okay,
any
I'll get with
reorganization.
Jacqueline. I believe we have those amendments drawn up in proper amendment of form that accomplish
I
this.
just sent them to her like yesterday.
You
so-
just sent this yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then that's something completely different. So, and the answer is no, we won't have those by tomorrow because Jacqueline is off tomorrow on a medical procedure, and
I will
I haven't
draft
seen
them.
these
I
till
will
now.
fix
Okay.
them and draft them.
I would ask that you have the Office of Law review
No,
them.
I understand. Amendments don't have to be reviewed by Office of Law.
They don't have to be, Alderman Savage, but often when,
I'll send them to Gary Elson and see if he can
Please
spend
send
a few
them to-
minutes to take a look at them.
please send them to Carrie as the acting city attorney, I would ask.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
For scheduling purposes, tomorrow we're going to readdress this? Can we make sure, are we? gonna-
I don't know. Alderman, if Alderman Arnett is back, we will.
Oh, he's-
If he
okay.
is not, we'll see.
Okay, I just want Director
He won't
Goff.
be here
I
either.
have police chief interviews all day tomorrow and the next day.
Well, tomorrow and Thursday, we're slated for the creation of our report, so.
Yeah. I just
My
wanted to
hope
hear
was
from
that we would
Director
get
Bell.
this legislation behind us so that we could move on.
So are you talking about this tomorrow or not?
Well, it'll depend on who's here tomorrow. I mean, we won't have our city manager here. The law department won't be, or at least Jacqueline won't be here to help you with your legislation, so. I'm hesitant about bringing your amendments back if there are unintended consequences in it. Now, if you're committing to cleaning that up, we can
Easily
have a
resolved.
discussion tomorrow.
They're easily resolved, and I think, at the least, I think the committee could still rule on the intention, which is to remove the, I mean, do this often in committee, you know, in terms of the
Yeah.
intention to remove this
Let me
reorganization
re-
from the budget.
Well,
May I, yeah.
Policy you want, and then let us draw up the proper amendments in proper amendment form to accomplish that. That would be my ask of you.
well, if there are only two of us tomorrow, we're still not going to get a second to the motion.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I don't,
You have another person that's going to be here?
well, what are you rejecting to? So you're saying that you want the office, the policy in the mayor's office?
I do.
Or are you saying just no to a department? Because there is a middle ground.
And that would be?
That's why we're trying to amend the budget so we don't have to be forced into a decision. It would be the status quo, and then looking at these added positions and where best to put them.
Well, the position I would take is to oppose the amendments because they're
not ready.
Well,
Yeah.
that also, but because they take out the position out of the mayor's reorganization. Okay, I believe that person, like the small minority business coordinator, should be an advisor. I felt the same way about the, what is it, the economic development coordinator. I felt that should be an advisor to the mayor also.
In the mayor's office.
In the mayor's office, yes. So I'm consistent with how I feel these positions should be placed.
Well, that is a lot of shifting of positions, which you said you didn't like.
Excuse me?
That's a lot of shifting of positions around, which you said you wanted to avoid, and I think the proposal to remove,
I didn't say I wanted to avoid anything.
well, you said you expressed your dislike of shuffling positions around, and that's kind of what my
No,
amendments are
I'm
trying to do, or to avoid having to do that.
Well, what I was
At least in the
talking
short
about
run.
is what happened to our staff who were in the DNEP, in DNEP at one point, and then went to other places, and then may go to other places again. That's the shuffling of the staff that I am not enamored with.
So that shuffling, but not
Yeah,
this shuffling.
I think the problem here is that the budget is based on a reorganization. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so now we're trying to do an autopsy and pull certain things out. Like, what are we going to do with that added stormwater management position? Do we want the forester to be in DPW? I mean,
Well-
we're at a disadvantage. I mean, planning and zoning.
I think we have heard on more than one occasion why the placement of the staff, why certain ones go to DPW, why others go to planning and zoning.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I don't think the budget is totally predicated on reorganization. There's an awful lot of other stuff in the budget that we are approving here.
No. I'm
So
talking
that's
about
just
this
one.
specific issue.
But you just said that the budget was predicated
Based
on this.
The budget is based on a reorganization of the Office of Environmental Policy.
Okay, so that's true. And,
Yeah.
and it's not the total budget, though. I mean, we got police, we got fire, we got all kinds of other departments. This budget is impacting all of them.
Understood.
So, but anyway, I don't want to argue the point. So can we go on to see if we can get some support for 016 and 017? Those are the last two items on our agenda today.
Okay. I don't think 016 is that.
016 is the human resources exempt positions. And it reorganizes, placing the HR manager from an 18 to a 19, the environmental policy advisor from a 20 to a 17, and the management MIT manager from an 18 to a 19. Oh, I skipped the public information officer and quartermaster, eliminating that completely. So there are 4 changes, pretty much.
Yeah, so this again is tied into 012-19 because recommending this then is recommending the environmental policy advisor in the mayor's office, I assume. It wouldn't be giving.
Well, the reality, I think, is that was placed in the wrong place to begin with.
Does this address where Jackie or whoever
Because
that
we
person
put
is
that
now?
position on a level 20, A20, along with the police chief and the fire chief.
So that's a good point, but, so can this person serve in the Office of Environmental Policy at this grade level?
I would think so. I'll ask the city manager.
You're asking whether you could leave the title Director of Office of Environmental Policy and leave it as a grade 20? Is that what you're asking?
No, the way it's revised, Environmental Policy Advisor, let me ask it this way, that is in the mayor's office. That can't happen with the existing structure, right?
So under the existing structure, you're going to want to go to page, it's a combination of things. So if you look at page 5 of the bill, hold on. Yeah, this doesn't have all the code in it, it only has the sections it's changing. So what removes it from being under me is Charter Amendment 219 or whatever that you already considered. That's what says it's a change to the charter that says the Office of Environmental Policy doesn't report to me. This bill changes the title and it changes the pay grade for that position, among other things. But as it relates to that position, it is what this bill does is change the title, change the pay grade, because the position no longer supervises people in the mayor's proposed budget. So the Office of Personnel looked at the duties that we proposed and that the position had no supervisory duties any longer, and using the matrix and system that they used to determine grades, said that it was more appropriately graded as a grade 17. I will tell you personally that I don't think a grade 20 was ever the appropriate grade for this position. Nor do I think the title is an appropriate title for this position. Directors in our charter, we have departments that are led by directors. If it's not a department in our charter, I don't believe director is the appropriate title. And then this bill also provides who will, no, that's just a title change too. That's all this bill does. The change to pull it out of the city manager, reporting to the city manager, is charter amendment. Charter amendment 219. So if you want it to stay like it is and report to the city manager, you want to defeat Charter Amendment 219, and you want to amend this bill so that it does not change page 2, line 12, or the title and grade that's in the table that starts on page 2, line 22. And you want to amend page 5, line 34. That's how you would take it back to the existing provisions.
Yeah, sort of stuck again. I would have to recommend as amended to address those titles.
What do you mean
later.
you'd have to recommend it? What would you want to do?
Well, this again, if you recommend this ordinance, you're basically lowering the pay grade of a person and retitling them, and that's all, if it's, the assumption here is that that person is in the mayor's office, so I'm just not ready to
Well, I'm not
say
sure
yes to
you'd
that.
be lowering the pay, because I assume she would be breadline for,
Oh, she is, yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean-
she's already, Tricia shared that with us.
Yeah.
But this also deals with HR manager and MIT
know.
manager. So, I mean,
I know, that's my frustration. We're sort of held hostage because of this whole environmental, feud.
You're not held hostage. This is the way budget and legislation work together. It's not a matter of holding you hostage.
Well,
You introduce legislation.
I'm going to be holding something up because I don't agree with one thing. I mean, that's sort of unfortunate.
So as a finance committee, you make a motion to do an amendment, and the motion passes or it doesn't. If it doesn't pass, it still goes before the entire city council, where you can make a motion to amend, and it will pass or it won't pass. No one's held hostage.
I apologize for that, but it's frustrating because I don't want to hold it up, but for the other categories. And
Okay,
human
well,
resource.
we're not going to have a motion on that either.
No, just be subject to amendment. That's
Okay.
not ready.
So let's go on to 017.
So 017 is simply going to be a reflection of all the other positions you've taken. And so we will draw up the amendments for all of the positions you've taken already as a body. And those will become the amendments to be proposed, and we'll list the sponsors of those, members of the Finance Committee who supported those amendments.
So because we couldn't come to an agreement on the reorg or the exempt services, or, I guess that was it, right? We're not going to have an agreement on 017 until it comes before the full body.
Is this just related to, I mean, is this the whole budget?
Yes, these are the budget
really-
appropriations that
yeah.
you are authorizing for the operating budget for each fund,
Right.
for the capital budget, and for the capital improvement program.
But we have to do this.
So
Now.
I'll give you an example. If you've
Yeah.
given a position, if the Finance Committee has a position, did you all, I wasn't here, did you take a position to rebuild Spa Road on Spa Road? The majority did that. Okay, so I think Katie just brought it up to me, but, so that is your position. We will draw up the amendment that says, if it was you and Alderman Arnett who voted yes, we will have an amendment that says on page 6 after line 7, add, section 24, and it'll say, it's further established and ordained that the 5.8 million appropriated for the maintenance facility may only be spent to rebuild a facility on Spa Road. And that, so you all simply, from the actions you've already taken, we will draw up the amendments for you in proper amendment form.
Yeah, this
Okay.
has to be amended. This isn't.
Yeah,
this is
it will be
too-
amended.
Yeah.
It will be amended, and there will be one amendment that isn't going to happen until the very last day when all of the other amendments have passed.
Which is
And that's going to
017.
be on page 1, line 43,
Did we do?
because that's what the general fund, that'll ultimately be the general fund.
Has this been done before?
Yes.
I mean, really, this ordinance in this detail?
No, not this ordinance like this, no.
No.
We
that's
had
what
an
we've never-
atrocious ordinance.
Last year. Wow. So.
Our ordinance
yeah, I mean,
last year
this-
was an Excel
this
schedule
codified- I mean,
attached.
This memorializes the budget, and we have some.
Well, that's why I said we're not going to be able to
Right.
give a
Yeah.
favorable recommendation for this because we haven't done all the
Well,
other
you
pieces.
can say that you recommend adopting 01719 with the amendments that you have recommended on all the individual things you've done, like Spa Road, or, I don't know, say you didn't want to fund a new position that was asked for.
Oh,
I don't
speaking
think
of
you guys
which.
did that, but I'm just,
Yeah.
whatever you have decided as a body that you want, we will draw up the appropriate amendments for you.
So
Well,
there's a way of phrasing that, I think.
And we will
Tomorrow-
draw up whatever amendments you want individually. For example, Ellie wants a traffic engineer position. We have prepared that amendment.
I won't get it now after I said you were holding me hostage.
Well,
Sorry.
tomorrow, when we go through, and we'll go through all of this, just try to begin to formalize our report,
It's a good format.
then we can
Oh.
see exactly what we need amendments for.
Yeah, we'll draw up your amendments.
And then we'll
You don't
have a
need to
list
see the
by end of
amendments
the
to
day
do your
tomorrow.
report,
Right. Yeah.
okay? We
So-
will draw the amendments up to match your report. So you put in your report what you've decided on and what you want, and we'll draw up the appropriate amendments. Okay? I will tell you of an amendment, just so you're aware, to the ordinance 17 that absolutely must be done. Page 6, line 22, where it says the tax rate is 0.0738. It's a typo. It's my typo. It is 7380, not 0.738. That amendment is going to go on the floor on Monday. There's a public hearing Monday night in the constant yield. So that amendment's been loaded up already. 7380. 7380. 0.7380.
So you don't want to bring that forward to us?
You can, if you'd like to, that's the amendment that we're going to propose.
Yeah,
So if you'd like to recommend that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
yeah.
So right now, Jacqueline has loaded that up as amendment number 1, sponsored by Mayor Buckley. So if you all would
Okay.
like to approve that, I would be eternally grateful.
Would you be comfortable?
Yeah, it's subject to,
No.
well, what is the wording? Yeah.
We want to make a motion to support amendment number 1, which changed the,
Oh, okay, I'm with you now, sorry.
The real property
rate.
tax rate.
Yeah, we have to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
so I'll second that motion. Further discussion?
No,
Hearing enough, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's amendment number 1.
Let's just go back to this ordinance, ordinance 19. Okay, so it can be 012-19, if it was recommended today, it can be amended on the floor, but it's still subject to review of the charter 02-19. Right? CA 219 is the one that changes the structure.
Exactly.
So
So you're asking if
my
you
point is
make
we
a
need-
motion to support
We need one to
012?
work with, and even regardless of my being in the middle here, we still need one to work with and amend.
So you
We
want to,
can't just,
so you're thinking about making a motion to support 012-19 for the sake of having a discussion? I don't know.
yeah, I don't know, I just know inevitably it will be the one that we'll probably have to amend regardless of what we do, unless you adopt Rob's, which is the whole department thing.
Oh, you're saying we'd have to amend out Office of Environmental Policy in order to get the other 2 departments that are mentioned? The 2 departments.
I don't know, I'm just looking at the legal strategy here. Because if we say no to both this and Rob, what do we have? We don't have,
Status quo.
Say no to this and to Rob, then you defeat CA 219, and you amend 1219 to take out all the changes that pertain to the Office of Environmental Policy. But you only amend it in that regard, not as Alderman Savage's amendments do, which slash
right,
the
that's what I
whole
mean.
table.
See, that's what I mean. You're eventually going back and amending 012-19.
You
so-
are. And so when the
I mean, it's, yeah. I know
when
we talked-
the city council takes a position on the budget and the proposed reorganization, we not only would prepare the budget amendment, I mean, when we know where you're going and where the votes are, right, which you do by way of amendments, by voting on amendments. So if Rob wants to
He can amend it on the floor.
amend
Yeah, or-
ordinance 1219 as it relates to the Office of Environmental Policy, we will get those amendments into the proper form. It is not going to happen by tomorrow, I can assure
No,
you of that.
right.
And then you all will vote on those amendments. If those amendments pass, we will then have amendments to ordinance 1719, which is the budget, to reflect it. I know this is all kind of new to the city. It's not new to me and Jody in any way. We dealt with this every single year in the county budget.
But you didn't have the same restructuring that we
Yeah,
had.
we had restructurings. Absolutely. Administration would propose something, it may or may not pass. And if it didn't pass, you would amend the personnel bill that created it, or you can't amend the charter at the county by way of a charter amendment. Can't, requires the voters, but, you would, amend whatever ordinance was, the administration had proposed for that reorganization in a personnel bill, and you would amend salary scales, which might be something different, and you would amend the budget.
So my problem is that if...
Not infrequently.
I shouldn't say it this way, my problem, but if we, ideally, again, I care about the projects. What's the best way to handle these projects that are, whatever, failing on stormwater management? And I agree with putting people where they're working, so what does that leave? That doesn't leave anybody with the Office of Environmental Policy. Who would be under this?
Well,
Who would be left?
So under the mayor's proposal, I too I keep hearing, I want somebody who wakes up and thinks about the environment every day. I do, too. And I want somebody in every department who wakes up and thinks about the environment. So that's why I want the forester position to be in planning and zoning, so that there's somebody in planning and zoning who wakes up thinking about trees every day, and the guy who wakes up thinking about the trees every day is the one who's signing off on forest conservation plans and forest delineation plans. Those things can't go through unless that person, whose whole job is looking out for trees, signs off on them.
Well, perfect.
And then when it comes to stormwater, that's why I want the environmental programs coordinator position, which has done other things, but is primarily stormwater in the past, to be in Public Works. So in Public Works, every day, that position wakes up thinking about stormwater and then coordinates with the stormwater engineers. Those same two positions, whether they're at one in Public Works, waking up thinking about stormwater every day, and one in Planning and Zoning, waking up thinking about trees every day, coordinates with the Environmental Policy Advisor in the Mayor's office, whose duties very specifically include coordinating with those departments.
And that can't happen now with the Director of Office of Environmental Policy. That person can't do that?
The forester cannot sign off on...
No, I mean...
One that was in here.
Yeah. I mean, that's my angst, that's my dilemma, is that if I agree with you, I think people should be where, and point taken, when we were looking at the grading, the grading permit and who are the people looking at it, we don't want to have two departments, that's, I clearly understand that, that I just, then I say, okay, well, I agree with that part, they should be in the respective departments, so then you're left with an Office of
One
Environmental
person,
Policy with
yeah.
what's left.
Well, so you're contemplating if you left those there and you didn't...
No, I'm just saying I dispersed them, but
Right.
so
If you
who's
left them where they're proposed in the
What's
mayor's
left
budget...
is the position that's now the Director of the Office of Environmental Policy,
would be the only
with
person...
no supervisory duties.
With no supervisory duties in that, answering to the city manager.
Well,
with no
it's
supervisory
frustrating because,
duties.
again, this was a big deal to have this, they have to tell me why it's failing. That's the thing, too. I mean, why is it failing?
Why
We
was
have
it
an office-
failing before?
I don't know.
That's
I
the
mean,
question I keep coming back to.
Yeah, I know. But
You
here we
know.
are with an Office of Environmental Policy, and there's this,
I think we've fallen for the rhetoric that if that department goes away, the work that they do will go away. It won't. The work will simply be placed in better, I want to say more appropriate departments between DPW and Planning and Zoning.
I agree with that. I just don't think a policy person in the mayor's office is going to help the problem. I think that might even
What
make-
is the problem?
Well, I think it's separating it from the troops, if you will. I mean,
But what
there's-
is the problem?
There has to be somebody that's going to coordinate efforts.
And what
this
is our-
policy person in the mayor's office, they're going to end up walking over to DPW and walking over to stormwater management, and making sure everything, I don't
you
think
not
it needs
think-
to be elevated to the mayor's office. I don't think we're that
You don't think
big
David
of-
Gerald knows enough about stormwater?
I'm not saying that.
But you're saying that they're going to have to go, we have department heads that are very skilled, very trained, very highly certificated.
I understand
beyond
that. Yeah, no, I understand.
what we have right now.
I totally agree. Stormwater management experts should be in DPW and the forester in planning and zoning. But I just.
Then what's missing then?
I don't think it's necessary to have a policy person in the mayor's office.
Okay, so
it's just.
if you don't want that to happen, but if you want stormwater and public works, do you want the environmental programs coordinator position that is primarily stormwater in public works?
That's the stormwater, is it an engineer?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking, is that person can stay with the director now.
But that person's duties are coordinating our MPDES MS4 compliance efforts.
And is that person talking to the engineers over in DPW presently?
Should be, yeah.
They should be.
Did you look at the job descriptions?
As you presented them, yeah. No, I do. I just, there's a problem. There's a disconnect between environmental, MDE requirements that, we're ignoring that whole thing, and this doesn't solve it. It doesn't solve it. It just...
I'm not sure there's a problem.
No, you ask people next to Milkshake Lane and all that, and these, I just think if we had a strong Office of Environmental Policy, would be okay. And it's unfortunate that something's wrong, and I'm not really clear on what.
Well, if they hadn't eliminated the department.
I understand. I know, we're talking in circles now, yeah.
It's all about control.
Well, and as someone offering you advice, if I may, since I think that's part of my job, I don't know, after the whole discussion we just had, again, I would ask you to focus on if you think there's a problem. Is the problem structural? Is the problem a person? Or is the problem the code?
It's obviously both.
Both what? I just named 3 things.
Oh, I thought that first one was the third.
Is it structural? Is it the person? Or is it the code? So do we have competent people and they're in the right place, but the code needs to be fixed? Or do we have...
There's obviously a personal, what's the first one?
Your mic is on.
You look at the code and what the Office of Environmental Policy is charged with, and in my view, there's no reason why there should be a problem.
Well, when I look at the code and what they're
something's
charged
not
with, I don't
working.
know what it is they're doing from the way it's described in the code. So if you go to the code...
What code section is that? I was trying to find it again. Is it up? And this was added.
Okay, so right now, it's 212080.
And it's right there with the, yeah.
So it says that there shall be an Office of Environmental Policy, and the following programs and activities shall be the responsibility of the office. Urban forestry. All of the urban forestry regulations are under planning and zoning.
That would be no net loss. So they were charged with no net loss.
Let me repeat what I just said.
Yeah.
All urban forestry regulations are under planning and zoning, which is a department in the code. If it's not a department, it can't be carrying out regulations. So to say that the Office of Environmental Policy shall be responsible for urban forestry when all of the urban forestry regulations fall under planning and zoning is a disconnect. Sustainability, Land Trust Conservancy Board, NPDES, MS4, TMDL compliance coordination. All of the MPDES, MS4, and TMDL compliance and regulations fall under Public Works.
Right, yeah.
And it's that coordinator position that, in fact, we are proposing to move to Public Works. Environmental grants, environmental policy development and initiatives, so there's that development word. If their person isn't supposed to be developing policy, we need to take it out of here too. Activities impacting upon sewer pretreatment, stormwater management, sediment and erosion control. Again, those regulations all fall under planning, zoning, and DPW. And to educate and inform the public concerning environmental protection, urban forestry, and related subjects. That same type of stuff is what we have proposed for the environmental policy advisor position. So sustainability, land trust, trying to find grants, and educating and informing the public, and developing environmental policy and initiatives all fall under the proposed position as we have developed it in the mayor's office.
I don't think that person has to be elevated. I mean, as director, I think she can still make sure that her person underneath her whatever, try not to get personalities in here, but that person underneath that has stormwater management, what is that title?
Environmental Programs Coordinator.
Can correspond with the respective person in DPW.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have another meeting.
Yes, we
I'm
could talk about this
already
before, yeah.
well past when I should have
Sorry,
been there.
yeah.
So if you will let me know what you want, we will prepare whatever amendments you seek, okay, in the proper form. That goes for any alderman.
Okay. We'll know tomorrow, by the end of the meeting, exactly what we need. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yes. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
I don't think so. Just check the text. Is Ross texting?
Is Ross texting?
No.
No.
No, we're good.
And he didn't call. He had a doctor's appointment. He may not be secured for takeoff. Who is Beth Mock? Mock was her maiden name?
Well, I don't know, her email comes up both ways. One's American,
So it was
one's
Mock.
Canadian.
I thought her name, because that's what I kept calling her, and somebody said, no, her name's Bellis.
I think I heard that too, but
Yeah.
I knew that she
Somewhere along the lines, and she's gotten, yeah, somewhere along the lines she's.
Okay, well, good. At least I'm not crazy. Okay. Yes, she did.
She has like 4 emails, like Felicia.
Beth does?
I think so, yeah.
So, okay, anything else for the good of the order?
No, thank you.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn.
I will second that motion and thank everybody, all the department heads, city manager, city finance directors, our city staff, council staff. For
That was a
keeping
heroic
us on
effort
track.
on fees and fines.
Oh, yeah. But I think we got it done. I think we all understand it, and so we're good.
We're good.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. See you tomorrow.